This is the most popular guy in school. All the girls are crazy about him. However, he is cold and doesn't give anyone a chance. One day, during PE class, where there's no doubt about who is the best, the ball landed near the girls. That was the moment Lee Nara decided to show off her best kick to the boys. Unfortunately, she kicked it so hard that her shoe flew off her foot and hit him right on the head. "Did you do that on purpose?" She replied that she hadn't, that it was an accident. Then, Nam Gyun-woo looks at the shoe and says he wants to confirm something, stepping right up close to her. The other girls' hearts go wild at the scene. Nara thinks to herself, "No way. Did he just sniff me?" When Gyunwoo backs away covering his face, she is left in shock thinking, "It can't be. I wash up thoroughly every day. This guy is crazy." But you shouldn't get the wrong idea. What Gyunwoo was actually checking was this curse mark on her neck. Apparently, Orochimaru has something to do with this. As soon as Gyunwoo left, the girls surrounded Lee Nara to ask how long they had been dating. They comment on how lucky Lee Nara is to have talked to him and wonder what they spoke about. Alone, Nara tries to figure out what scent Gyunwoo had smelled on her. Distracted, she places her hand on a tree and to her surprise, a slimy purple mark is left on the trunk. At that moment, an invisible countdown marks that she has only 4 hours left to live. Where she touched, a bizarre evil spirit begins to form on the tree. Later, back in the classroom, Lee Nara observes Nam Gyunwoo. He's talented at sports, handsome, and seems to have an aura that draws everyone's attention, even the upperclassmen who show up just to see him. She finds him impressive, taking notes in the middle of class, and undoubtedly being the most popular boy in school. However, upon looking closer, she realizes he's a bit different. In his notebook, instead of serious notes, he writes silly questions and random statements, like the fact that he likes sausages. Nara concludes that he's actually quite strange, and soon discovers another oddity. He often talks to himself, like when he starts debating what to have for lunch with himself. The class ends. Nam Gyunwoo approaches and says he's finally figured out the scent he smells on her. Annoyed, Nara asks why he's so insistent on this story. He then reveals that the scent is the same as a fox's, and that the mark on her neck is the sign of the fox's curse. Suddenly, time seems to jump, and the countdown to Lee Nara's death reaches 5 seconds. As the final seconds tick by, she remembers her mother saying that curses are just nonsense. Shocked, she drops the trash bag, declaring that curses don't exist in their world. When the count reaches 3, Gyunwoo grabs her hand and asks if she really doesn't know what that mark means. Before she can answer, the wall beside them explodes. The count hits 2, and a truck barrels directly toward her. On the driver's face, an evil spirit is clearly visible. The countdown finally reaches 1. At the exact moment she's about to be hit, Gyunwoo shoves her out of the way, saving her life. The truck crashes hard into the wall, and Nara falls to the ground, completely stunned, wondering what just happened. Shortly after, she faints and has an out-of-body experience, seeing herself lying on the ground and questioning whether she's alive or dead. As Nara's spirit floats, Gyunwoo tries to wake her physical body, slapping her face several times and shouting for her to open her eyes, but nothing works. At that moment, the evil spirit that was in the truck driver begins to manifest. It approaches Nara's soul and reveals that it has waited 17 long years for this opportunity. Now that the hunter's descendant has finally turned 17, the fox spirit can take her soul. The evil spirit begins to envelop Lee Nara's soul, who tries to call for help as she's dragged away. Suddenly, a punch from Nam Gyunwoo shatters the spirit's slimy form. Nara doesn't understand how he managed to do that, but she feels the boy grab her spiritual body. He says he can see her clearly, spins her in the air and tells her not to move. With a great leap, he positions her upside down and shoves her back into her physical body. From inside the closet, she hears a deep voice saying there's no one in the room. To her shock, what enters is not a person, but a giant tiger with a knife in its mouth. The tiger spirit swore it had sensed someone's presence, but upon looking around, it sees nothing. The green-eyed tiger stares directly in Nara's direction, but seems to look right through her, finding the situation strange. The girl, confused, starts to think she's still dreaming. Just then, Nam Gyunwoo throws open the closet doors, startling Nara, who runs out thinking it's the tiger. Seeing it's him, she calms down and asks if he also saw the talking animal. He says that's impossible, but she insists she saw it with her own eyes. He then points to a small tiger cub and says curtly that it's just a kitten. Just then, Gyunwoo's mother, Nam Oran, appears and asks if Nara is his girlfriend. Surprised that he brought a girl home, he corrects her, saying she's just a classmate. Nara finally understands that the voice she heard belonged to his mother, not a talking tiger, and is struck by her beauty. Oren immediately notices the curse mark on Nara's neck. After the girl introduces herself, Gyunwoo tries to send her home, but his mother stops him, insisting she stay for dinner. Soon after, his brothers also appear, Nam Gihan, who is 27, and Nam Hondo, who is 18. Nara recognizes Hondo as a popular senior from her school, an aspiring actor, and realizes she had never noticed how handsome he was up close. Lee Nara continues to watch Nam Hondo, thinking that with his looks, he could easily be a celebrity. A moment later, their mother, Nam Oran, calls everyone to the table, announcing that dinner is served. As soon as they sit down, Lee Nara senses that the atmosphere is very strange. Gyunwoo's mother won't stop staring at her, while Nam Hondo, the middle brother, refuses to eat and just glares at the table with an angry expression. To make matters worse, Gyunwoo himself is silent, and even the family cat is eating with them at the table. Unsettled by the situation, the only thing she wants is to go home. The only one who seems normal is the eldest brother, Nam Gihan, who kindly tells Lee Nara to make herself comfortable and offers her some food. Suddenly, Nara notices a small white feather on Gihan's shoulder and stands up to remove it. The moment her hand gets close, everyone at the table gives her a strange look, and Gyunwoo yells for her to stop immediately, but it's too late. As she touches the feather, a huge white wing erupts from Gihan's back. He screams in surprise and begins to float in the air. Lee Nara is shocked and asks if he's an angel, but her expectation is shattered when, in the next instant, Gihan transforms into a chicken. Gyunwoo, irritated, says that dinner was a disaster. He doesn't want to know what happened, but rather how she managed to undo his brother's transformation. It's then that his mother reveals the reason. Lee Nara is the descendant of a hunter. The news shocks all the brothers. Seizing the moment, the cat asks if it can stop pretending and, before Nara's eyes, transforms into a little girl. The mother quickly scolds her, pointing out that her tiger tail is still showing. This sparks an argument about garlic, and Nam Hondo finally explodes. He complains that he's tired of eating garlic in every meal, from pancakes to cakes, and that the taste is horrible, a true act of terrorism against his palate. His mother becomes furious with his complaint and orders him to eat in silence. A sinister aura surrounds her and she suddenly spits on her son's forehead. Hondo, who is apparently a neat freak, panics in disgust and, in his desperation, transforms into a giant pig. In his pig form, however, his attitude changes completely. He starts devouring all the food on the table, saying everything is delicious, and cleans every plate in a matter of seconds. Lee Nara can hardly believe that the cool, popular boy everyone at school envies is actually a pig. The situation descends into family chaos. Hondo argues with his mother for spitting on him, Gihan complains that they shouldn't have invited a stranger to dinner, and the little girl fights with Gyunwoo for forcing her to act like a cat. Losing her patience with the bickering, the mother screams for everyone to shut up and, in a fit of rage, transforms into an immense tiger, destroying what's left of the dinner table. At that moment, Lee Nara finally understands that the tiger she saw earlier in the room was real. Instinctively, she pulls out her phone and takes a picture of the scene, causing the entire family, in their animal forms, to scream at her to delete the image immediately. Frightened, Nara asks if the tiger is going to eat her. The mother, calmer now, says it's all a big misunderstanding and begins to tell the legend of Dangun. She explains that in the original story, a bear and a tiger entered a cave to become human, but only the bear succeeded. What the legend doesn't tell, she says, is that other animals were there as well. Her family is descended from those very beasts that failed to become human. Gyunwoo becomes nervous, questioning why his mother is telling their family secret to a classmate. Ignoring the argument, Lee Nara turns to Gyunwoo and asks the most important question of all, if he isn't human either. Upon hearing the question, a malicious smile spreads across Gyunwoo's face, while the rest of the family looks on in shock. The chicken says the situation is embarrassing, and the pig claims it's obvious they're human, since animals can't talk. Gyunwoo finally answers, stating that he is human, but his mother intervenes with a sinister tone. She says it's all a matter of perspective, whether they are beasts or if Nara is a hunter. To her, their meeting could be seen as a great burden, and then she places a hand on Nara's shoulder, ending the conversation with a threatening air. Gyunwoo's mother continues, saying that if their meeting is seen as one between two humans, then it could be considered fate. She asks the girl which of the two options she thinks it will be. At that moment, the mother undoes her transformation and points to the fox curse mark on the girl's body, showing her a piece of paper with a red design on it. She explains that the girl cheated death and survived the curse, and because of that, her tomorrow will be very different from her today. The mother hands her the paper, instructing her to stick it on her door when needed, as that pattern would connect them. Then, she says it's getting late, and that she should go home. The girl takes the charm and leaves the family's house, wondering how a simple piece of paper could connect two people. Suddenly, feeling a strange energy, she decides she doesn't want to be involved in any of it anymore. On an impulse, she throws the protective charm on the ground and runs away. Meanwhile, back at the house, Gyunwoo's older brother asks if they really should have let the girl leave like that. The mother, very calmly, tells them not to worry, as the child will return. She states that if she doesn't come back, the girl will end up dying at the hands of the fox. After running for a long time, the girl finally stops, tired, feeling relieved to have escaped. However, without her noticing, the protective charm she threw away mysteriously ends up inside her backpack. When she gets home, her mother complains that she's late, but the girl goes straight to bed, exhausted. The day had been a nightmare. She was hit by a truck, almost had her soul stolen by a fox, and discovered that people could turn into beasts. She just wanted it all to be a dream. The next day, her mother wakes her up by shouting, asking if she isn't going to school. Noticing she's very late, the girl rushes out without even eating breakfast, her face barely washed and her sneakers crushed at the heels. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning, but at the bus stop, something catches her attention. On the shoulders of a man scrolling on his phone, there was a frightening creature. She is completely in shock, especially when the creature turns to her and asks what she's looking at. The girl panics, thinking she's seeing a ghost in broad daylight. She realizes she's the only one who can see it and tries to play it cool, avoiding the spirit's eyes. But the creature insists, telling her not to look at its man, or it would rip her eyes out. It's at that moment she remembers what Gyunwoo's mother said, that her tomorrow would be very different. Desperate, she starts running and realizes the entire city is full of spirits. She could see ghosts now, and it terrified her. Finally, after running for a long time, she arrives at school, wondering if the ghosts followed her. As soon as she opens the classroom door, her heart freezes. The room was filled with spirits sitting at the desks and in the teacher's spot, all of them looking at her and asking who she was. Her classmate calls her by name, Lee Nara, inviting her to sit down. Scared, Nara closes the door for a moment. The path she walked and the door she opened every day now seemed to belong to a completely different world. The normal life of a 17-year-old girl was ruined. She sits down for math class, but the spirits start to gather around her, mocking her for not being able to solve the problems. They said she would never get into college and whispered in her mind. The spirit of a construction worker kept repeating that he built that school before he died. Others pressured her, talking about the accident and her struggles with her studies. The number of ghosts kept increasing, and they began to get suspicious, asking why she was trembling so much. They realized that she might be able to see them. Nara tried with all her might to pretend she couldn't see anything, but tears were already streaming down her face. It's then that Nam Gyunwoo suddenly stands up and walks over to her desk. He stops in front of her desk and stares at her. Immediately, the spirits fall silent. With a gesture, he uses some kind of magic to ward off the evil presence, pushing all the spirits out of the room before closing the door. After class, Nara grabs him by the arm, asking to talk. She points, frightened, to a spirit under a tree. Gyunwoo calmly explains that it's the ghost of the snack shop lady, who always pesters him to eat. He shoos the spirit away, saying he's going to eat something healthy. Next, he introduces Mr. Kim, the worker who died during the school's construction, and won't stop repeating it, and also Mr. Park, who became the place's guardian spirit because he loved watching the students read. Gyunwoo explains that there is another world beyond what we can see, and that ghosts are like people. Some are good, and some are bad. He reminds her that there are truly evil ghosts, just like the fox that tried to steal her soul. He then asks if she still has the talisman his mother gave her, commenting that he was surprised his mother would hand over something so valuable. Nara is shocked, as she remembers throwing away that piece of paper, which was actually an extremely important talisman. The girl lies, saying the talisman is safe at her house. Nam Gyunwoo warns her that if she wants to live, she needs to affix the object to her door. Frightened by the thought of telling her mother she threw the gift away, she returns home. The pleasant smell of dinner greets her, and she decides to take a shower before eating. But as she washes her face, a sinister voice echoes in the bathroom, commenting on how appetizing she smells. It was an evil spirit. She tells the ghost to get out, irritated at being interrupted. Shortly after, her mother says she's stepping out quickly to buy some tofu and asks her daughter to keep an eye on the stove. The girl, however, still thinks it was her uncle in the bathroom. Furious, she goes to his room and complains, telling him he should have knocked. Her uncle, who was on the computer, gets confused and quickly turns off the device, afraid she might see something. Only then, as she heads up the stairs, does she realize her mistake. There, on the steps, a huge, terrifying creature was crawling. The girl instantly understands that it was that monster repeating her uncle's words. Terrified, she runs to her own room and locks the door, remembering her friend's warning about the existence of bad ghosts. The spirit begins to ask her to knock on the door, and the creature tries to pass through the wall drawn by her scent. The monster manages to get past the amulet her mother had given her, but the voodoo necklace she wears emits an energy that prevents it from fully entering the room. In an act of desperation, she grabs the weights her uncle gave her and arranges them in the shape of a cross, which makes the creature retreat for a moment. However, she ends up knocking over the weights, and the monster seizes the chance to grab her neck, beginning to pull the soul from her body. She grabs her backpack and strikes the creature with all her might. To her surprise, one of the blows throws the monster back, repelled by a protective paper. She realizes that the talisman she had thrown away was inside her backpack the whole time. Remembering Nam's advice, she tries to run to affix the paper to her bedroom door, but she falls to the floor, paralyzed with fear. The ghost was so terrifying she couldn't move. In a panic, she starts throwing pens at the monster, which obviously causes no damage and only makes it angrier. The creature screams, throws her against the wall, and once again begins to tear the soul from her body. About to be devoured, she realizes she's next to the closet door. With a final effort, she tells herself she won't be eaten by a ghost and sticks the talisman right there. At first, nothing happens, and the creature continues to approach, but suddenly the paper begins to glow intensely. The closet doors swing open and a hand emerges from within, grabbing the spirit. To her complete relief, Nam Gyunwoo steps out of the closet. He holds the monster, which stops moving, and the girl cries for help as she feels her soul detaching. A strong electric current surges in Gyunwoo's hand, and he strikes the creature, tearing off a piece of its body and forcing it to release the girl. The monster regenerates its hands, which grow back small and deformed, and tries to attack again. Gyunwoo dodges with ease and, in the middle of the fight, still has time to ask if she did her Korean homework. She screams to warn him of an attack from behind, but he had already noticed. He turns and responds with a devastating electric punch that knocks the spirit to the ground. Without giving the monster time to react, he starts kicking it repeatedly. The creature gets up even more furious and opens a huge mouth to devour him. In response, Gyunwoo energizes his hand once more and delivers a final punch, defeating the monster for good. The spirit screams as its body dissolves, and from within it, several small specters begin to fly out. Gyunwoo explains that those are the souls that were devoured by the monster, known as an Eonkui. He explains that when a bad ghost eats a soul, it becomes a specter. He then captures the Eonkui's essence in a glass jar and seals it with a talisman, ensuring it will never return. With the fight over, he simply steps back into the closet and says he's leaving. The girl is confused and points to the front door, but when she looks again, he's already gone. She opens the closet to look for him and suddenly finds herself inside his room, in his house. Gyunwoo explains that the talisman is called the Rabbit's Den, and it connects one door to another. Just then, his mother enters the room and asks how the hunt went. The girl, named Lee Nara, finally breaks down and starts crying, saying it was terrifying. His mother then explains that the problem is Lee Nara herself. Her soul is like delicious prey, which is why specters are drawn to her. These monsters are driven by an insatiable hunger and devour everything in their path. Gyunwoo's mother explains that for specters living in darkness, Lee Nara's soul is like prey they are permitted to devour. That is the true meaning of the mark on her neck. From that day on, all specters who smell the curse will come after her, and as soon as the fox regains its strength, it will hunt her too. In shock, Lee Nara asks what she can do, but the mother's answer is brutal. She is going to die soon. The girl is devastated at the thought that she won't be able to go to college or even date once in her life, paralyzed by the news that her end will come shortly after she turns 17. However, the mother reveals there is one hope. Gyunwoo will protect her. The boy doesn't seem happy about the idea at all, but he ends up agreeing. He questions his mother about why he has to be Lee Nara's protector, and she replies that it's because of the Rabbit's Den talisman connecting their two rooms. Seeing her son's dissatisfaction, the woman transforms into a tiger and asks if he dislikes her order. Lee Nara, on the other hand, is filled with hope. She remembers that Gyunwoo has already driven away the fox once and has now captured an Eonkui. If he continues to protect her, she can live. The girl begins to thank him profusely, but Gyunwoo's mother interrupts her, saying that nothing in this world is free. Lee Nara asks, afraid, if the payment will be her soul, but the proposal is something else. In exchange for protection, they want the girl to bring them a relic of Dangun. The woman reveals that Nara's grandmother was a famous fox hunter, and her power came from a thumb ring that belonged to Dangun himself. That is the relic they want. Lee Nara is confused, explaining that her grandmother passed away a long time ago, and she has never heard of any ring. Gyunwoo's mother, however, assures her that the ring recognizes its true owner, and being that kind of object, it will return to her hand soon. With no other choice to survive, Lee Nara accepts the deal. Later, in her room, she looks at a family photo and wonders what kind of person her grandmother really was. Her mother always hated talking about her grandmother, only saying that she spent 6 months of the year away from home. Now, Lee Nara finally understands why. She was probably hunting foxes. As she wonders where the relic could be, she decides to change for bed but stops midway. She remembers the connection between her closet and Gyunwoo's room, immediately feeling uncomfortable with the lack of privacy. The next day, while getting ready for school, Lee Nara is startled when Gyunwoo simply walks out of her closet, asking to see her Korean homework. He borrows the books and leaves, annoying the girl, who yells at him not to enter her room like that. Meanwhile, at Gyunwoo's house, his mother was observing the evil spirit they had trapped. Suddenly, a man named Pung Baek enters through the window. The woman scolds him for not using the door, and he replies that she is sounding too human. He reminds her that for a beast, entering through the window is a sign of good manners. Pung Baek warns her that time is running out. If she truly wants to become human, she needs to work harder at purifying the world and capture more evil spirits. He says that before Dangun descends, they need to accumulate enough good deeds, or else they will spend the rest of their lives as beasts. Back in her room, Lee Nara starts to hear a deafening guitar noise coming from the closet. Annoyed, she opens the door and comes face to face with Gyunwoo, playing the guitar on his bed, wearing only his underwear. She asks him to stop, as it's very late and she's trying to sleep. The boy says that's rock and roll, but eventually agrees to stop and lies down. In silence, she thanks him for his help earlier. Gyunwoo hears everything but doesn't reply. Even in different rooms, the connection between them made them feel as if they were together. From that day on, the two start going to school together. The scene doesn't go unnoticed by the other students, who immediately start gossiping, assuming that Lee Nara and Gyunwoo are dating. The girls become jealous, and all this negative attention attracts an evil spirit, which observes the scene with great anger. Pressured by her classmates, Lee Nara repeatedly denies having any kind of relationship with him, afraid that the truth would attract even more danger. The enraged spirit approaches her and starts screaming that she's lying, repeating the word endlessly until it lets out a piercing shriek that drains Lee Nara's energy. Gyunwoo notices the spirit passing him with a hateful glare, but he doesn't understand what happened. The ghost heads for the stairs, repeating to itself that Lee Nara is a wicked girl. Just then, a dark voice emerges from the shadows, asking if it can help. It's the fox spirit, who offers to help eliminate the girl. Without hesitation, the fox spirit simply devours the girl's ghost. With that, the monster grows larger, a mixture of the two spirits dripping black sludge. The creature begins to climb the stairs, but it knows this still isn't enough. It needs to feed on more ghosts to grow, and soon it spots its next target, the lunchbox ghost, who was in a nearby tree. The fox spirit slithers along the school walls and finally reaches the lunchbox ghost. Without a second thought, the monster thanks it for the meal and devours the poor creature. Meanwhile, class ends, and Lee Nara finds it strange how quiet the school is that day. The teacher dismisses the students, and everyone starts heading home. On their way out, Gyunwoo asks her if she's seen any ghosts, suggesting they might have gathered to watch something interesting. However, Lee Nara realizes that even the lunchbox ghost, who was always nearby, has disappeared. This information puts Gyunwoo on high alert. He quickly takes a piece of chalk from his pocket and draws a large white circle on the ground, placing the girl in the center. He explains that as long as she stays inside the circle, the evil spirits, the Yeonquis, won't be able to see her. He tells her not to leave it for any reason, promising he'll check on what's happening and be back soon. Nara asks if the situation is serious, but he doesn't answer and leaves to investigate. Gyunwoo heads to a dark area of the school, going up the stairs toward the bathroom. Once there, he senses a strong presence, even though it's hidden. Opening the door to one of the stalls, he finds all the school's ghosts huddled together, trembling in fear. He asks what they're doing there, and the spirits urge him to be quiet, whispering that a powerful Aeonkwi is roaming the halls. However, before Gyunwoo can react, the fox spirit suddenly appears and devours all the ghosts in front of it, transforming into an even larger and more terrifying creature. Shocked by the scene, Gyunwoo faces the monster, which now asks directly where Lee Nara is. Meanwhile, the girl, still in the circle, starts to get scared and sends messages to Gyunwoo, asking where he went and begging him to come back soon. Gyunwoo sees the messages but can't reply, as he is face to face with the fox. The monster says she could feel Lee Nara's presence until a moment ago, but then she suddenly vanished. Seeing his ghost friends consumed like that fills Gyunwoo with an immense fury, and a powerful energy begins to emanate from him. The fox accuses him of interfering with her revenge and says she doesn't care about other humans. She offers him a deal. If he tells her where the girl is, he can live. Without a second thought, Gyunwoo answers with an energized punch right to the fox's face, sending her flying. As the fox gets up, the voice of Mr. Park, one of the spirits she swallowed, comments that the blow really hurt. Distracted by the voice, Gyunwoo fails to defend himself in time as the fox attacks with one of her 9 tails, launching him forcefully into one of the bathroom stalls. The monster boasts that she devoured the spirits too quickly and hasn't fully digested them yet. Furious, Gyunwoo lunges at her again, unleashing a barrage of brutal punches into the creature's stomach. The blows are so powerful, they make her vomit up the spirit of Mr. Park, who thanks Gyunwoo and vanishes to save himself. The fox, indifferent, remarks that old ghosts don't taste very good. Gyunwoo realizes she is no ordinary evil spirit, because even after consuming so many souls, she hasn't gone completely insane. Now, feeling restored, the fox prepares to fight seriously. Gyunwoo declares that he will keep hitting her until all the spirits are freed. He energizes his hands, but suddenly a spirit seems to emerge from a toilet bowl. He dodges at the last second and realizes it was an illusion. The fox had transformed one of her tails into a toilet to attack him. The monster warns him to watch where he steps. Looking down, Gyunwoo sees the floor is covered in sharp fangs, and he leaps back just before being bitten. In the air, he notices that even the ceiling lights are traps. He uses his feet to kick off the ceiling and return to the floor, dodging another stall that tries to bite him. Realizing the 9 tails are creating all the illusions, he decides to ignore them and charges forward, landing a powerful knee to the fox's mouth. He then follows up with an overhead blow that smashes the monster into the floor. As Gyunwoo prepares to deliver the final blow, one of the fox's tails grabs his arm, stopping the attack. Looking at his own arm, he sees that it has transformed, taking on a monstrous, beast-like form brimming with energy. The fox then begins to taunt him, questioning why a creature like him tries so hard to protect humans. She claims that no matter how hard he tries, the moment humans see his true nature, they will react with fear and disgust. The fox continues, saying that the way he seeks human affection irritates her, but Gyunwoo simply replies that it's none of her business, and that, unlike her, he doesn't live by devouring humans. He transforms his arm back to normal, energizes his fist, and threatens to give her a beating. The two charge at each other with hatred in their eyes. Gyunwoo lands a punch so powerful on the fox's nose that the sound of the impact echoes through the school, heard even by Lee Nara in the courtyard. Worried by the noise, Nara considers stepping out of the chalk circle to see what happened, but she hesitates. She continues texting, unaware that Gyunwoo is in the middle of a life-or-death struggle. Suddenly, a boy appears on a bicycle and accidentally runs into the young woman. It's Hando Sunbae, who asks what she's doing there. In the fall, the bicycle's tire runs over the chalk, erasing a part of the protective circle and leaving Lee Nara exposed. Suddenly, the mark on Lee Nara's neck begins to glow, and in that same instant, the fox pinpoints her exact location. The evil spirit has finally found its target and leaves the bathroom to go after her. Seeing this, Nam Gyunwoo becomes desperate, knowing the fox is heading straight for the girl. In a matter of seconds, the black sludge creature appears in front of Lee Nara, opening its enormous mouth and promising to devour her. Terrified, the young woman throws her arms in front of her face to protect herself. However, when the fox tries to bite, it can't reach the student. Hando Sunbae, the middle brother, creates a magical barrier that blocks the attack. The fox then notices the magic circle drawn on the ground, which prevents it from getting closer. Finding the monster's appearance repulsive, Hando creates a light magic that pushes the spirit back. He declares that the creature's ugliness cannot interfere with his own beauty, activating an aura that he claims is untouchable. Lee Nara thinks to herself that a self-compliment shouldn't be that effective. The fox, confused, asks what kind of hunter he is. At that moment, Hando Sunbae notices that a few drops of the monster's sludge have splattered onto his hand. He is disgusted by the filth, but the worst happens next. His hand begins to transform into that of a pig. Ashamed of his beastly side, he tries to hide his hand. Soon after, Nam Gyunwoo comes running and asks his brother to protect Lee Nara. The fox warns that no matter how much they fight, the girl's life will be hers. Ignoring the threat, Hando puts the young woman on his bicycle and starts pedaling away. Lee Nara asks if he's just going to leave Gyunwoo behind. Hando explains that if he fights the spirit, he will completely transform into a pig, something he finds disgusting and wants to avoid at all costs. So, he speeds up, fleeing the scene. The fox spirit doesn't give up and begins to chase them at high speed. The chase is so intense that Hando blames the girl for the whole mess. On a turn, she nearly falls, but he catches her by the tie. Suddenly, the fox emerges from inside a wall and tries to snap at them both, managing to envelop them with its sludge body. At the last second, Nam Gyunwoo appears and lands a powerful kick on the monster, knocking the creature away and saving them both. Now, Hondo is completely covered in sludge and becomes even more irritated, knowing he's going to turn into a pig in front of everyone. Lee Nara even points out that he seems to be getting fatter. The fox also realizes he's not an ordinary human as the transformation accelerates. The younger brother tries to help, but Hondo is already pedaling desperately as his body changes, crossing the street and nearly running over people. He swerves around a mother with a baby stroller, yanks the bike into a sharp turn, and ends up going over an overpass, flying for a moment before starting to fall. They go down a very steep and dangerous ramp, crashing straight into a mountain of trash at the bottom. After the crash, the transformation is complete, and Hondo, now a giant pig, continues to pedal angrily. Meanwhile, Nam Gyun-woo slides down the same ramp and joins them. He stops in front of the fox, ready to fight, and emanates a frightening aura. The older brother tells him not to get worked up. Then, Gyun-woo asks the pig how far he thinks he can run with that appearance, and tells him to fight alongside him, because the escape is over. The fox lunges to attack the three of them, but the pig uses its massive body to land a solid kick on the monster's mouth, knocking it down. Nam Gyun-woo seizes the opportunity, energizes his hand, and unleashes a massive punch of pure spiritual energy. The blow hits the fox head-on, shattering the evil spirit and leaving Lee Nara stunned by the two brothers' strength. However, with its last breath, what's left of the fox wraps itself around Lee Nara's body and then vanishes. The girl faints on the spot. The brothers rush over to her worried. The giant pig thinks she's dead, but Nam tells him to stop being so dramatic, explaining that she only fainted because her soul escaped her body. They wonder where her soul could have gone. Believing the fox used some kind of transformation magic to hide it somewhere, Nam starts attacking nearby objects. He punches a tree and elbows a post, desperately searching for the girl's soul, even hurting his own hand in the process. Meanwhile, Lee Nara's spirit wanders through a vast, dark void, feeling lifeless. The souls of the construction worker, Mr. Kim, and the woman from the school appear, telling her to run. But before she can react, a sludge tentacle from the fox grabs her foot and pulls her into the depths of darkness. Frightened, she sees a light and passes through a hole, which leads her into an old memory. She sees a man saying he couldn't keep his promise, as humans had killed the woman he loved and their child. Nara understands she is seeing the fox's past and the origin of its hatred. Soon after, the vision shifts to a memory of her own family. She sees her grandmother, who in the past had eaten fox livers, which led the spirit to curse her entire bloodline. The grandmother protected her granddaughter, still a baby, with her own life. In that moment, Nara finally understands everything. The fox's grudge had transformed into the curse she has carried on her neck since birth. In the background, she can still hear her mother's voice, yelling at the grandmother that she couldn't take the situation anymore. The memory shows Lee Nara's mother leaving home with her as a baby. Her grandmother begged her not to go, warning that without removing the curse, the child would die. But her mother was tired of that story and shouted that she would raise Lee Nara to be a normal person, far away from all of it. This memory, however, is not Lee Nara's, but the fox's own. At that moment, the evil spirit's sludge tentacles wrap around Lee Nara once more. The fox explains that it has been inside her for 17 years, seeing everything. It saw the girl grow up happy and loved, and realized that its own child, had it lived, could have had the same chance. The fox's true grudge wasn't against Lee Nara, but for the loss of its child, who never had the chance to grow up. Suddenly, the scene changes. Lee Nara, now in spirit form, finds herself in another memory, observing her grandmother in the past. Desperate, she starts to scream, trying to get her attention, and then the impossible happens. Her grandmother, inside that old memory, hears her granddaughter's voice from the future. Lee Nara screams that the fox has swallowed her and asks for help. The grandmother, reacting in real time, reaches out and manages to grab her granddaughter's spirit hand. She tells Lee Nara not to let herself be consumed by the darkness and encourages her to fight back. In that instant, the young woman finds the ring that is the relic of Dangun. The meeting of the two, one in the past and the other in the present, creates a rift in the spiritual space. Because of this, the spirits of both the fox and Lee Nara are exposed. Even understanding the monster's pain, Lee Nara questions why it is taking everything out on her, and using the relic's energy, she delivers a blow that destroys the spirit. Immediately after, her soul begins to be pulled into the void, but Nam Gyun-woo stops it, grabbing her hand and anchoring her spirit back to her body. When Lee Nara wakes up, she sees that several kind spirits from the school are finally free. A final fragment of the fox spirit tries to escape, but the pig, Sunbai, captures it in a capsule with a talisman, sealing it once and for all. With the battle finally over, Gyun-woo needs to put Lee Nara's soul back into her body. He warns that it will be difficult to do so without pain, and without ceremony, shoves her spirit back in. The pain is intense, but immediately after, a powerful blue light emanates from the girl's body, surprising everyone. everyone. Suddenly, she opens her eyes, and in her hand is the relic of Dangun, her grandmother's ring. After all the chaos, the three of them are exhausted and hungry, so they stop at a convenience store to eat. While they eat, Nam asks about the ring. Lee Nara explains the unbelievable, that her grandmother handed it to her from within the memory, transcending time and space. His brother thinks she must have hit her head since it's impossible to be recognized by a memory. Lee Nara says she doesn't know how it happened, but she doesn't care, as she was happy to be able to speak with her grandmother, even if just for a moment. Back at the family home, they give the imprisoned fox soul to their mother, who is also enchanted by the ring. She explains that it is a sacred relic that amplifies spiritual power 100-fold, sparking everyone's greed. The mother is the first to try it on, but the ring rejects her, jumping off her finger. The older brother then demands his turn by right of primogeniture. He puts on the ring and, for an instant, an intense glow appears, and angel wings sprout from his back. However, the glory is short-lived, and he immediately transforms into a chicken, falling onto the chair. The ring flies and lands in Lee Nara's hands again. Nam Gyunwoo declares that the relic has chosen its master. The girl, not understanding the item's value, places it on her thumb. In that same instant, a blinding light fills the room, the entire house shakes, and a strong wind begins to blow. Suddenly, a red liquid with a strong smell of iron appears on the table, and the overwhelming power causes everyone to lose control and transform into their beast forms. It is at this moment that a mysterious figure appears, floating in the middle of the room. An old man covered in animal pelts introduces himself as the ancestral deity of hunters. He claims he was waiting for the ring's next successor and says that Lee Nara is the chosen one. With everyone paralyzed, the old man announces that he will tell her a truth she does not yet know. The ancestral deity then reveals the truth. There are beasts in the world that wear human skin to sow chaos. Upon hearing this, the family standing right behind him becomes visibly frightened. Lee Nara, sensing the danger, tries to get the old man's attention so they won't be discovered. He knows that evil beings are drawn to this relic, and that because she is so pure, Nara will have to face many trials. Before leaving, the old man states that the use of the relic is up to her and gives one last piece of advice: to never trust the beasts. With that, the ancestral deity finally disappears. As soon as he is gone, the residents of the house stop pretending and return to normal. Lee Nara is left confused, realizing she is now a hunter who will not hunt. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the family's pig, Pung Baek, is bathing and quickly transforms into his human form. He admires himself in the mirror, noticing a red +1 mark on his back, which indicates he is a high-level spirit. Pung Baek is surprised, as he has never seen such a strong spirit in the fox tribe, and he questions the matriarch about how she found him. The woman, however, says that it is a trade secret. Back to her studies, Lee Nara comments to her friend Nam Gyunwoo that even her pencil glows now. Joking, she says she's a magical girl and will use the pencil to attack any monster that appears. Annoyed, the boy tells her to get back to her homework. Then, she uses a hair tie as a slingshot and launches the pencil. The object flies like an arrow, pierces through the wall with a swirl of energy, and disappears over the horizon, passing by several buildings. Shocked, she doesn't understand how she did that, and her friend encourages her to try again. Using the hair tie and her thumb with the ring, she shoots the pencil once more. Except this time, the makeshift arrow hits her mother squarely, who had suddenly appeared. Immediately, the house begins to shake as the woman transforms into a giant, furious tiger, screaming that she will destroy them both. After the commotion subsides, and the mother returns to her human form, she notices the pencil arrow has disappeared. She explains that the hunter's arrow always pursues evil energy, and that Nara needs more training. This information leaves the girl thoughtful. If the arrow pursues evil, why did it hit her mother? She remembers the deity's warning not to trust the beasts, and begins to suspect her family. Late in the evening, she decides to leave and returns to her room through the closet. Tired, she puts off her homework and falls asleep. However, in the middle of the night, Nara wakes up and goes to the kitchen for something sweet. As she closes the refrigerator door, she comes face to face with a malevolent being lurking there. In shock, she pretends she saw nothing and tries to flee, but then she starts to hear groans of pain. The ghost has her pencil stuck in its chest and asks if it belongs to her, demanding she remove it immediately. The next morning, Lee Nara is exhausted. She didn't sleep at all, as the ghosts tormented her even in her dreams. She understands that the pencil caused all of this, and that she needs to get it back so the spirits will leave her in peace. On her way, she realizes that the pencil she had playfully thrown had stirred up a real storm, as it had apparently hit a nest of spirits. Her path leads her to an abandoned house she remembers from her childhood. Back then, she was so afraid of the place that she always took a detour. She doesn't know why she came this way, since even adults avoid the area. Nara recalls hearing that the former residents died of a mysterious illness, and that more recently, the place was being used as a hideout for gangsters and their illegal activities. Inside the abandoned house, Minzu was taunting his friends, asking if they were scared and what they would say in jail for being such cowards. In the middle of the conversation, one of them told the woman in the group to stop smoking, complaining that the smell was getting into their clothes. As it turned out, no one there had even lit a cigarette. A dense, mysterious smoke began to fill the room, slowly shaping itself into a terrifying spirit with sharp teeth. Upon noticing the ghost's presence, the group of delinquents flew into a total panic. Cutting back to our protagonist, Lee Nara, who is now outside the property. The entire area is cordoned off with police tape, because the youths who were inside had suddenly disappeared. Curious and worried, she decides to take a quick look to see if everything was all right. Soon she finds an enormous tree, much larger than it seemed from a distance, and to her surprise, her pencil was stuck right in the middle of the trunk. She remembered that the pencil had flown a very long way to get there. Lee Nara recalled the matriarch's words, who explained that the hunter's arrow, in this case her pencil, always pursues evil energy. The whole situation was sinister, and she knew the ghost from her dreams would continue to haunt her if she didn't remove the object from the tree. Scared, she tried to call the spirit, asking it to come to her so she could take out the pencil, but the ghost didn't obey. Seeing she had no other choice and that no one was around, she decided to go in and get it over with as quickly as possible. However, as soon as she entered the property, she stepped on a patch of soft earth and fell into a hole, landing in a completely dark place. After hitting her back on a car, she realized she was in an underground garage. The darkness was absolute, and she couldn't see a thing, which made her worry about how she would get out. Since it was a garage, she knew there had to be an exit, but the place was immense and she couldn't find any way out. Exploring the area with her phone's light, she began to notice strange things. Thick tree roots grew out of the walls and spread throughout the entire place. She also found candles, a clear sign that someone had been there recently. Suddenly, a noise confirmed her greatest fear. She was not alone. Whipping her phone around, the light revealed the 3 missing delinquents, along with several other people. They all looked like zombies, with vacant expressions and strange movements. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man named Nam and Lee Nara's mother were talking, confused. They didn't understand why Lee's curse hadn't disappeared, even after they had captured the fox. The mother wondered where the vessel sealing the fox spirit could be. Back in the garage, Lee Nara found the answer. The tree was covered in talismans, and surrounding it were several vessels with sealed spirits. One of them, right in the center, seemed to be the very one for the fox. With no time to understand what it all meant, a spirit began to float behind her, and the zombies started to close in. Lee Nara screamed for them to stay away, but they didn't stop. When they tried to attack her, she dodged and put her phone in her pocket, bracing herself for the worst. It was at that moment that the spirit from her dream appeared, floating in the air. He made a proposal. If she took the pencil out of the tree, he would help her escape. The ghost pointed to a log he had prepared for her to climb. Without a second thought, Lee Nara started climbing as fast as she could, but the group of zombies caught up to her, grabbing her leg and trying to pull her down. With bizarre expressions, they struggled to capture her, but she fought back, landing a powerful kick to one of their faces, which fell back, stunned. Free, she continued her climb, wondering how such an absurd situation could be happening over a simple pencil. Finally, she saw a light and reached out, managing to pull herself out of the underground right at the base of the tree. Relieved to have survived with only a few scratches, she turned to the pencil stuck in the trunk. Just as she was about to pull it out, one of the missing women emerged from the ground and grabbed her ankle, trying to drag her back into the hole. Lee Nara held onto the trunk and noticed the blonde woman was crying desperately. She managed to break free, and without understanding the reason for the tears, finally pulled out the pencil. As soon as the object came out, black slime oozed from the tree. The pencil had pierced a small evil spirit, which looked like a disgusting insect, and it quickly dissolved into the air. For a moment, it seemed the danger was over, but just as she relaxed, a giant foot emerged from inside the tree. A huge creature emerged, shouting that it was finally free thanks to her, after being trapped for 70 years. The furious monster blamed a man named Pung Baek for imprisoning it and vowed revenge. Terrified, Lee Nara wondered what kind of creature this was, feeling she had awakened something very dangerous. The monster screamed that for years, it had watched its family fall apart from inside the tree, unable to do anything. Meanwhile, a mysterious man in a suit was watching the scene in silence. The creature saw him and ordered him to come down. It was Pung Baek. He appeared suddenly, saying the seal should never have been broken. Ignoring the question, the monster charged forward, but Pung Baek vanished and reappeared in midair, landing a 2-footed kick that knocked the creature to the ground. Pung Baek asked again how the seal was broken, while Lee Nara, hiding the pencil, pretended she had nothing to do with the situation. He ordered the monster to crawl back into the tree. Annoyed, the ogre got up and threw a powerful punch at Pung Baek's chest, who staggered back slightly, but didn't seem to feel the blow. The creature then tried to crush him with the back of its hand, but Pung Baek blocked the attack without even moving. With an air of superiority, he said that if the monster crawled back into the tree now, he would spare its life. Despite the ogre's continuous blows, Pung Baek remained completely unfazed. Seeing that brute force wasn't working, the blue monster then unleashed a powerful blast of fire, but the villain blocked the flames with a single arm, telling it to stop playing around. As Pung Baek prepared to counterattack, the ogre acted quickly. It vanished for a moment and reappeared beside the girl, scooping her up and taking a gigantic leap away from the danger. The monster fled with the young woman through a dark door, closing it quickly behind them. Shortly after, Pung Baek arrived and opened the door, vowing that this time he would rip off the creature's arms and legs. After taking a few steps, he noticed a small crab on the floor and realized he had fallen into a trap. A magical barrier transported him to a deserted beach, where a door stood in the middle of a heart drawn in the sand, and a sign indicated he was in the city of Busan. Pung Baek was furious, recognizing the trap of a nature deity, a trick that had caught him 70 years ago. Meanwhile, in a safe place, the ogre asked the girl if she was hungry. He noticed she was identical to a young woman in an old photograph, even wearing the same clothes. He asked why she was there, and the young woman replied that she just wanted to take a pencil out of the tree. The ogre explained that it wasn't a pencil, but an arrow that had broken the seal imprisoning him. Suddenly, their train of thought was interrupted by the girl's ringing cell phone. It was her friend Gyunwoo calling. She took advantage of the ogre's distraction to run and answer it, trying to scream for help. However, the monster was faster, snatching the phone from her hand and crushing it. He said that now that the house's guardian deity had been freed, this place was the safest for her. The girl was terrified, realizing he planned to keep her prisoner. At that moment, the blonde woman from the basement appeared, now completely lucid, and warned her not to trust the ogre. She revealed that he was the one who had trapped everyone in the basement, claiming he wasn't a guardian, but a monster who fed on the people in the house. The ogre denied everything, saying the real monster was Pung Baek. To silence her, he struck the blonde woman, who collapsed instantly, leaving the protagonist in shock. Then, the other people who had been trapped in the basement appeared and charged at the ogre, yelling for the student to escape through the window. She started running as fast as she could, while the ogre easily defeated the two men, throwing them against the wall. Desperate, the monster tries to convince her to stay, claiming those people have been brainwashed and that Pung Baek will catch her if she leaves. The girl doesn't know who to believe. She remembers Pung Baek asking if she was the one who freed the creature, and also the matriarch's words that a hunter's arrow pursues evil energies. Putting the pieces together, she concludes that the man in the overcoat was telling the truth and runs for the exit. Angered by his failure to convince her, the ogre stops her, slamming her hard against the wall and knocking her unconscious. While the girl is unconscious, a neural connection breaks. The man in the cap who was with her was actually a clone controlled by Pung Baek. The ogre's blow had severed the link. Atop a distant building, the real Pung Baek feels the connection break and rushes to the scene. Back at the house, the blue ogre decides to eat something before dealing with the villain, feeling guilty for having to hurt the girl in order, as he saw it, to protect her. Just then, a car pulls up in front of the abandoned house. Inside are Nam and his family of hunters. The matriarch senses the spiritual energy of Lee Nara, the protagonist, coming from inside the house, though her son jokes that she's just using a tracking app. The family opens the trunk and equips themselves with various talisman-wrapped weapons, ready to hunt spirits. While the mother is focused on protecting her relic, Nam's priority is to save Lee Nara. Nam is the first to act, vaulting over the wall with agility. The matriarch notes that the tree in the garden is unusual. They knock on the door, but no one answers. Upon opening it, they find a dark and bizarre place. Nam's older brother stops them from entering, warning that there's a rabbit hole trap, which activates with spiritual power and could send them anywhere. He says he can disarm the ancient pattern in a few minutes, but the impatient matriarch simply rips the door off its hinges, saying there's no time for that. The family enters the house and begins to search for Nara. Soon, Nam makes a horrifying discovery. He finds the blonde woman and the other kidnapped people, all alive, but embedded directly into the walls of the house, as if they were part of the structure. The family is horrified by the sight of the people trapped in the wall, and the mother tells her eldest son to undo it. He explains that since it's an ancient spell, it will take some time, but he begins working to free them. Meanwhile, Gyunwoo can't wait and starts searching for Lee Nara on his own, ignoring the family's warnings to stay together. He hears a noise coming from a door and believes Nara might be hiding there. Pushing it open a crack, he sees a blue ogre with its back to him, and notices the monster is using the rabbit hole talisman to steal food from a market. Moments later, his siblings appear, and also see the creature, which is a dokaibi, a type of nature spirit. The dokaibi senses their presence, but it's too late. Gyunwoo charges forward, wielding his enchanted baseball bat. He lands a blow on the monster's head and yells, asking where Nara is. The creature, barely feeling the damage, just asks who he is. Gyunwoo attacks again, demanding he return his friend. Annoyed, the monster curses at the boy. Obsessed with finding Nara, Gyunwoo strikes the enemy's stomach and charges his bat with electricity for a stronger attack. However, even with the electric blow, the monster doesn't even flinch. In response, the blue creature unleashes a flurry of quick punches. One of them hits Gyunwoo's arm, sending him flying into a wall. Injured, he realizes the enemy is too strong. The nature spirit had been eating and was irritated at being attacked. As it prepares to strike Gyunwoo again, the mother intervenes, delivering a powerful slap to the monster. The blow is so strong it sends the creature flying across the room, taking immense damage and being practically defeated with a single hit. The matriarch then asks where the sacred relic is. The dokaibi, still dazed, can only ask what hit him. The mother tells Gyunwoo and Hando to look for Nara, while she and her eldest son deal with the ogre. But a moment later, she changes her mind and tells even her eldest son to step back, saying she wants to stretch a bit, as it's been a while since she's had a fight. The spirit realizes the woman's power isn't spiritual, and wonders how she knows Pung Bayek. He assumes she must be one of Pung Bayek's servants to be so strong. The matriarch is offended by the accusation, stating that their relationship is one of partnership and mutual need. Filled with rage just from hearing Pung's name, the dokaibi calls her a servant and lunges to attack. He throws a punch, but the woman easily blocks it with the palm of her hand. The monster uses his other arm, and as they get closer, he finally understands. She has no spiritual power, only pure, brute strength. Unwilling to lose, the two engage in a clash of strength. The dokaibi acknowledges her strength, but the matriarch taunts him, saying she hasn't even used half of her power. The monster retorts that he hasn't used a quarter of his either, and they start trading insults as they test their strength. Gradually, the woman begins to dominate the clash, pushing the spirit down until he sinks into the ground. He desperately asks what she is. In response, she delivers a punch to his face, ending the contest. While the fight was happening, Hando, Sumbai, and Gyunwoo head upstairs, searching for Nara. They notice the place is filthy, covered in dust, and seems to be collapsing. Gyunwoo starts calling out for Nara until he hears a response coming from a room. When they open the door, they find the girl gagged and lying on the floor, but the strangest thing is that she's fast asleep and snoring deeply. They can't understand how she could possibly be sleeping in a situation like this. After shaking her a little, Gyunwoo's voice finally wakes her. He asks if she's okay and unties her. He questions why she didn't answer her phone, but before she can respond, Nara hugs him, saying she went through something terrifying and just needed a minute to calm down. In that moment, Gyunwoo was reminded of just how dangerous the world his friend had gotten involved in was. Back to the fight, the dokaibi refuses to yield. He and the matriarch exchange a few more punches until the blue monster grabs her and drags her through the walls, smashing everything in their path. Feeling her back slam repeatedly against the walls, the woman grows tired of the situation and reveals her true form, a giant tiger. With a double swipe of her claws, she gravely injures the monster, who is shocked by her transformation. The impact of their fight makes the house tremble even more, and the ceiling of the room where Gyunwoo and Nara were completely collapses. During the fall, Gyunwoo holds Nara tightly, and luckily, they land on a bed, which cushions the impact. Soon, the entire family is reunited in the new location. They look around and realize they are in a strange place, filled with piles of sealed, empty containers. The matriarch demands that the dokaibi explain what this is. He reveals that the place is a prison and a storehouse created by Pung Bayek. He would capture spirits called Aeonquis and lock them in here to feed on each other. Afterward, Pung Bayek would simply devour the strongest one. The mother doesn't believe it, saying he would never do such a thing. She remembers him encouraging her to purify the world so that one day she could become human. The blue ogre insists it's true, saying that Pung Bayek is dying, becoming an empty shell that devours Aeonquis to extend his own life. And at that very moment, Pung Bayek himself appears in the midst of the family. To conclude, the Dokaibi explains that by devouring so many spirits, Pung Bayek has become a high-level Iankwi. For many years, he dedicated himself to saving humans, but death was his only reward. The thought of simply disappearing terrified him. Desperate, he begged the gods for a solution, but the deities remained silent, which led him down this dark path. In his desperate struggle to survive, Pung Bayek tried everything. One day, he ended up drinking an Ionki, a type of spirit, and was amazed by the effects. He realized he could not only live, but also heal part of his illness without having to beg the gods or humiliate himself. This discovery was like a liberation, but what started with a single sip soon became an uncontrollable addiction. Pung Bayek sank into this addiction, filling his body with spirits and feeling a terrible withdrawal that made him crave more and more. The thirst for more spirits turned into a pain so great that he could barely remember what he was doing. It was in this state that he stumbled upon an ancient tree in the garden of a house. That tree was full of Ionquis that a Dokaibi had gathered for 300 years to protect his family. Without a second thought, Pung Bayek sealed the nature spirit guarding the tree, and like a farmer harvesting fruit, enjoyed the feast of aged spirits. Back in the present, Pung Bayek decides it's time to end things. The matriarch of the Dokaibi family confronts him, surprised to finally see the face of the traitor. She asks ironically if he enjoyed the evil spirits she had captured, the very ones he stole. Pung Bayek responds with arrogance, saying he had no reason to refuse such a generous gift. He taunts them, claiming they crawled like dogs to become human, and that he merely treated them like the beasts they truly are. The matriarch is enraged by his smug tone, and even young Nara is angered. Pung Bayek then reveals his cruel plan. For him, it's natural to discard things that have become useless. He had already secured enough Ionqui and built up a large supply. Now that the tree was empty and the family had no more use, it was time to dispose of them. At that moment, the body of the nature spirit, the tree itself, begins to burn with blue flames, and soon the entire house catches fire, trapping the siblings inside. Pung Bayek says they will burn slowly to the end and tries to disappear, but the eldest son acts quickly, trapping the villain with crimson chains before he can escape. Next, the mother lunges forward and attacks the man, but his body, saturated with evil spirits, suffers no damage. Pung Bayek transforms, his face half human and half Yonqui, and curses the family, saying he will eliminate those beasts with his own hands. He activates his black serpent magic, and claws of sludge pin the matriarch and the eldest son against the wall. When all seemed lost, the nature spirit uses the last of its strength to grab Pung Bayek, trying to burn him along with itself. At the same time, Nam, the blue ogre, explodes with rage and attacks the villain with a series of powerful blows. Pung Bayek manages to break free and grabs Nam by the neck, saying he doesn't know what it's like to be abandoned. But Gyunwoo interferes, suggesting that perhaps Pung Bayek had also become useless to someone and been discarded. Upon hearing this, the villain freezes for an instant, and that hesitation is enough for Nam to break free. At that exact moment, a spectral blue arrow strikes Pung Bayek in the chest. It was Nara, who had improvised a weapon using a pencil, a hair tie, and her thumb ring. Immediately after, Gyunwoo takes advantage of the opening and lands a massive, energized punch, the Thunder Strike, right in the villain's chest. The impact is so powerful that all the Ionquis he had devoured are expelled from his body, dissolving on the floor. Without the spirits, Pung Bayek loses all his strength. His body begins to collapse, and his face starts to melt. In shock, he accuses Nara of ruining everything by freeing the Dokaibi and shooting the arrow. He swears he will never forget her, but the matriarch warns that there won't be a next time. As a last resort, Pung Bayek unleashes a wave of dark energy, causing the house to collapse completely, and uses the chaos to escape amidst the flames. The family now needs to escape the collapsing building. Hondo finds a possible exit, a refrigerator with a special talisman, but the hope is short-lived as a block of concrete falls and destroys the passage. With the only exit destroyed, despair begins to set in. The only other route, the one Pung Bayek used to enter, is blocked by fire. It seemed like the end. However, suddenly, the roots of the burning tree begin to move, revealing a hidden door amidst the wreckage. And on this door, there was another rabbit's burrow talisman, a new chance to escape. The tree's roots move and open the door, pointing the way to the exit. This was the final act of the Dokaibi, the spirit that protected the place. Lee Nara realizes he is using every last drop of his strength to save them, and asks him to escape with the family. However, the spirit explains that his fate is tied to the tree. If it has died, he too will soon die. He laments not being able to protect his home or the family that lived there, but as a guardian deity, he will fulfill his final duty to protect the house's last guest, who is Nara herself. With his last words, the spirit begins to fade away. Nara can't believe he is leaving in such a sad way. Seeing her hesitation, Nam pulls her by the arm so they can run through the door as quickly as possible. She looks back one last time, just in time to see the Dokaibi's body completely disintegrate. Saddened by his end, she grabs a photo from the wall, remembering that the spirit had said the family in the house was very fond of him. He had been trapped there for 70 years, and now Nara regrets being so afraid at first. She wonders if the outcome would have been different if she had been braver. Upon crossing through the door, the family finds themselves in Busan, and they all embrace, happy to be alive. However, something goes wrong. Nara and Gyunwoo, who were last in line, don't appear with them. The family realizes the door must have had a limit on how many people could pass through, and so the two of them were sent somewhere else. Meanwhile, the pair emerges in a completely different location. The house that was previously burned and in ruins is now intact, with a well-tended garden. Gyunwoo is certain that something very strange is happening. When they turn to go back through the door, they find a little boy with a camera in his hand. Nara immediately remembers what the Dokaibi said about the family's last descendant. She puts the pieces together and realizes the spirit didn't open a door to the exit, but one to its own past. They are in the year 1954. The little boy asks who they are, and Nara, wasting no time, tries to warn him about Pungbayek's black snake, saying that he is the true monster and that his family is in danger. The boy, however, defends the doctor. He says that Pungbayek is a kind person who is treating his mother's illness and asks Nara not to speak ill of him. Nam Gyunwoo comments that no one would believe strangers saying something like that. Nara understands perfectly, as she hadn't believed the Dokibi's story at first either. Now, she comprehends the spirit's feeling of helplessness. She realizes that running away or hesitating won't solve anything. Even without knowing if it will work, she decides to try something. Determined to no longer avoid confrontations, Nara uses the power of her ring and draws a negative energy from the boy's chest. The little photographer is left completely confused, while Pungbayek, watching from a distance, is shocked to see Nara capture and destroy the evil spirit with her bare hands. She explains to the boy that many things are invisible and that he needs to trust her. To prove it, she hands him the burnt photograph she took from the wall, asking him to set aside his preconceptions and see the sincerity in people. At that very moment, Dr. Pungbayek starts walking toward them. The door to the future begins to close on its own, and Nam shouts for Nara to run or she'll be trapped in the past forever. Before crossing through, the girl shouts to the Dokaibi, who was still trapped in the tree, promising that she will one day return to free him. The spirit is shocked to hear her promise. A moment later, Pungbayek arrives and wrenches the door open, but finds no one there. The girl left behind words that the Dokaibi didn't understand at the time, but which gave him hope. Even with his body trapped in the tree, he endured it all, watching the boy's happy family through the window. The boy, named Gunho, became a wonderful photographer, taking pictures of the world for his mother, who couldn't leave the house. He would show her the flowers in the garden and the smiles of the people, and his mother would say she was happy every day thanks to him. Gunho grew into an admirable young man, but the happiness didn't last. After losing his mother, he also lost his father a short time later. Alone in the world, the boy became easy prey for Pungbayek. The Dokaibi, desperate, wanted to protect the child at any cost. So he decided to give all his power to Gunho, the last descendant of the family, in the hope that he could escape far away and live out his dream. Even if it meant becoming an empty shell, the spirit didn't care, as long as the little boy was saved. However, Pungbayek broke the boy's camera, and soon after Gunho vanished as if he were mist. Silence fell over the house, which became a tomb for happy memories. Time passed, the house rotted away, and the Dokaibi remained alone, feeling useless for not having been able to protect anyone. Tired of staring into the void, he began to scream, begging for someone to either get him out of there or eliminate him for good. And it was at that moment, when he had given up on everything, that a bright light finally appeared before him. That light was, in fact, the arrow that Nara had shot using her thumb ring. It was the arrow of an old promise, flying from the past to save them. Back in the present, Nara and Nam Gyunwoo realize the entire house has been consumed by fire. Because of this, a path had finally opened up, allowing them to escape. The abandoned house they had returned to was now nothing more than a pile of black ashes. The large tree was also completely burned. Amidst the destruction, Nam finds a small light, which was all that was left of the Dokaibi's spirit. He was still alive, but his form was tiny and weak. Nara is relieved to find him and asks if he can hear her. Her colleague, however, warns that the spirit probably won't recognize them and will soon disappear completely. Desperate, she asks if there is any way to save him, but Nam Gyunwoo explains that it would be impossible unless the tree came back to life. safe. At that moment, the police arrive at the scene and warn the two of them, saying it's dangerous for students to enter a fire scene. An officer asks if they accidentally got trapped inside. He mentions that a witness saw someone entering the property with a gas can and asks if they saw anything, but the pair denies it. Oddly enough, the neighbors seemed almost happy about the fire, commenting that the abandoned house was devaluing the entire neighborhood. They explain that the owner refused to sell, which is why the house ended up in this state. Intrigued, Nara asks if the owner is alive, but the neighbors aren't sure. They reveal that the owner was a famous photographer named Park Gan-ho, a documentary filmmaker who passed away in 2001. His family donated over 50,000 of his works to the art museum. With this information, Nara and Gyunwoo decide to go to a farewell photography exhibition in honor of Park Gan-ho. Nara is struck by the realization that the child from the past had been alive until just recently. At the museum, the spectral butterfly continues to guide them, while Lee Nara carries the small dokebi spirit in her hands. The spirit observes the photographs and recognizes the flowers his mother loved so much, realizing that in the photos, they never withered. It turns out the little boy from that time had trusted the words Lee Nara told him in the past. His mother's dream was for him to go out into the vast world beyond the fence, and one day, he finally did. He found farmers working under the sun with smiles on their faces and photographed them, filling his work with the warm stories of the people. While observing the works, the pair comes across a very beautiful photo of a mother and her son. The little Dokaibi spirit is happy to see that Park Gan-ho truly got to know the world out there. There was also a photo of his family next to the tree, which makes Nara proud to know that the child became a great artist. Nam Gyunwoo, however, doesn't understand why she keeps calling him a child, since he was an old man when he passed away. Suddenly, a girl approaches and praises the photos of the tree, saying it was her grandfather's favorite and held a special meaning for him. In that instant, they understand that she is Park Gan-ho's granddaughter. The woman, named Jia, soon says her goodbyes and leaves. This meant that Gan-ho was not the last descendant of the family, as the spirit had believed. Upon learning that his bloodline was still alive, the Dokaibi finally found peace. He smiles, content, and his body begins to break apart into small particles of light, which settle gently into the photograph, allowing him to return to the family he loved so much. Lee Nara asks if he survived somehow, but Nam Gyunwoo can't say. He just comments that in the end, the spirit seemed happy, trapped in a memory that was neither painful nor fleeting. Soon after, Nara receives a call from her family. They say they are fine and ask where she and her brother are. She reflects on how everything happened. That day, they had taken a path they didn't normally use and ended up finding the Dokaibi's tree, escaping the trap through a different door. She wonders if it was all a coincidence or a miracle, but concludes that miracles don't come from divine aid, but from human will. Perhaps the spirits of her parents had guided her. In fact, at the museum, there was a photo of Lee Nara on display with the title Benefactor. Later, Nara's family takes a bullet train to head back home. During the trip, she questions her mother about why she trusted Pung Baek. The matriarch admits that, despite her suspicions, she was blinded by the desire to become human quickly and easily, and she takes the blame for what happened. However, Hando still holds a lot of resentment, as he was the one who most wanted to become human and was left extremely disappointed. The older brother agrees it's disappointing, but says there's nothing they can do now, suggesting they continue helping humans as they always have. The mother, however, states that volunteer work isn't her style and reveals she was already preparing to reactivate her accounts and recreate the secret chat rooms. Thus, a new group is created with a clear objective: to find the sacred relics of Dangun and find a way to become human. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we see a group of evil people gathered around a flask that traps spirits. Among them is Pung Baek. He asks a newly freed spirit if it liked its new body. The spirit, which had been in the bottle, complains that the body feels like trash. Another evil being tells it to just find a better one. The spirit then discards the body and says it will look for a more interesting one. It reveals itself as the nine-tailed fox and, knowing Pung Baek wouldn't have freed it for nothing, asks what he wants in return. The main villain says it's nothing much. He just wants the fox to do what it has always done, sending all the evil spirits to devour humans and plunge the world into chaos. However, he gives a specific order: do not touch the girl, Lee Nara. He wants her soul for himself. The scene then takes us to the past. Inside a crystal ball, a mist swirls and white flames flicker. A man couldn't understand the voice coming from it, but he knew it was one of the sacred relics of Dangun, a troublesome item freedom his wife had left for the family. Possessing a relic like that meant becoming a target for all sorts of evil things. While he was thinking about this, his young son simply swallowed the crystal ball. The father became desperate, shouting for the boy to spit it out immediately. In the mountains of Cheoram, in Gangwon province, lived this father and his son, isolated from the world. Little Nam Gyunwoo grew up like a wild boy, hunting animals using the spectral energy he now possessed. One day, he jumped from the top of a tree directly into his father's lap and accidentally used his energy, lightly electrocuting him. The father asked if he had been worried about him, but the boy said no. When his father asked what he did to pass the time, young Gyunwoo simply replied that he went swimming. Besides swimming, Gyunwoo told his father he also spent his time climbing trees and running all over the mountain. Worried, the father asked if he hadn't eaten raw meat again, but the boy couldn't say for sure. Gyunwoo then wanted to know if he had managed to capture the Aeonkwi, but the answer was no. Because of that, his father would need to go out hunting again. He apologized for having to leave his son alone once more with no friends around. Gyunwoo said it was okay, and just asked his father to bring back pizza when he returned. Then, he asked if his father was tired and if he still missed mom. His father tried to hide it, saying he didn't, but Gyunwoo knew the truth, as he would hear him say her name in his sleep. Curious, the boy asked why he had chosen his mother, and his father explained it was something he couldn't control. He said his mother was beautiful, and that he became a complete fool the moment he saw her. That feeling made him believe that no one in the world could ever replace her. She was the kind of person who made him believe in the word destiny. His father explained that destiny is something that cannot be changed, even if the stars fall from the sky. He assured him that one day, when Gyunwoo found someone like his mother, he would understand exactly how he felt. Gyunwoo wasn't very curious about his mother, but seeing his father talk about her with a smile made him happy. The next day, his father prepared to leave and hunt the Aeonkwi. Gyunwoo asked why he insisted on capturing these spirits, since it was so dangerous, and wanted to know if they could really become human by doing so. His father explained that wasn't the reason. He did it because he believed it was the right thing to do. To him, living like a human was simple. You just had to love, help one another, and live with kindness. Gyunwoo, who had a beastly side, asked if appearance didn't matter, and his father confirmed it. As long as they lived like humans, their appearance meant nothing. Thinking his father was brilliant, Gyunwoo asked for the pizza again, and his father, before leaving, warned him that his tail was out. Alone, the boy decided to live like a human, just as his father had taught him. He handed out nuts to the squirrels and carrots to the rabbits, believing he was loving and helping the animals. He planned to live like a human again the next day, but the days began to pass and his father didn't return. He had promised to be back after 3 nights. His father was always a little late, but this time was different. On the 5th night, someone Gyunwoo had never seen before appeared. It was an old woman, Nara's grandmother, who commented on how good he was at imitating humans. From her scent, Gyunwoo sensed she was dangerous and began to act hostile. The old woman told him not to be afraid, explaining she wasn't there to hunt him and that she and his father were old companions. It was then that she delivered the terrible news. The woman expressed her sorrow for his father's death and handed him an urn, saying he had returned as ashes. She said that it didn't matter if he slept for 10 or 100 nights. His father would never come back. From that moment on, Gyunwoo was alone forever. He looked at the urn and wondered if this was the destiny his father had spoken so much about. The old woman invited him to go with her, promising she would take care of him. When Gyunwoo asked why she was helping him, she replied that his father never questioned his reasons for helping others. She asked for his name and revealed that his father had named him Nam Gyunwoo so that he would live to help people. Returning to the present, Nara notices that Gyunwoo is lost in thought and asks what he's thinking about. He replies that he was just reminiscing about the past. At that exact moment, a bus nearly hits Nara, but Gyunwoo saves her in the blink of an eye, showing his instinct to protect others. Nara comments that he has been treating her very well lately, a far cry from the irritable boy he used to be. Gyunwoo knows all this kindness is because she is the granddaughter of the old woman who saved his life. Meanwhile, elsewhere, 3 rat-like creatures are discussing a plan. One of them asks if its human form is convincing, and the others assure it that it's perfect for deceiving people. They question why the boss sent them to do something so dangerous, since messing with Pung Baek could mean death. Despite their fear, the plan was to infiltrate the school and take just one of Nara's fingernails without anyone noticing. At school, class is about to start, but on the roof, 2 students are kissing. Suddenly, they feel like they're being watched. The girl says it's just his imagination, since no one would come up here during class time, and they continue. What they don't know is that several spirits are there, watching everything. A female spirit named Mia seems irritated, finding it absurd that students are doing that in broad daylight. Another ghost starts to tease her, and the two begin to argue. He insinuates that Mia never did that in her life because she didn't want to, which infuriates her. The truth is, she gets upset seeing others experience things she never could. Mia died without ever even holding a man's hand, and she wonders why the world is so unfair. In the midst of her sadness, she sees Nam Gyunwoo coming up the stairs and is captivated. To her, he is the only light in her miserable world. Just seeing him makes her feel better, but her joy is short-lived. Nara appears by his side, and jealousy takes hold of Mia. She assumes the two are dating and feels as though her only source of happiness has been snatched away. Her life seemed cruel and hopeless. To make matters worse, Nara stops beside Mia to talk, noticing she doesn't look well and offering to help. Nara's kindness only makes Mia feel worse, thinking it unfair that someone could be so beautiful and good. Mia remembers it was Nara who saved her from a fox attack, and her envy grows even stronger. She concludes that she is a horrible person, and therefore doesn't deserve to be happy. Her life had always been a sequence of pain. Her parents died in a car accident, and she had to become the head of the household, caring for her 5 younger siblings. She dropped out of school to look after them during the day and worked in a factory at night. On her days off, she still worked odd jobs at a restaurant, dedicating every second of her life to her siblings. One day, her boss, a kind young man, sent her home early, saying he would finish the work for her. He also gave her an advance on her salary, praising her great work, and Mia thought he was a wonderful person. Mia's boss not only paid her salary but also gave her a bonus so she could buy something for her siblings. Grateful, she noticed the young boss also had something to say to her, and for a moment, it seemed as if a romance was about to begin. Her life was not made only of sadness. There were small moments of happiness that she treasured forever. But just when she thought she could finally be happy, Mia died from overworking. Even after passing away, her concern for her siblings was so great that she couldn't leave this world. As a spirit, she began to haunt them, mainly to ensure her youngest brother studied. It was by following him and nagging him that she ended up stuck in the school he attended. Nara, listening to the story, understood that Mia's love for her brother kept her tied there. Furthermore, Mia confessed that her only joy in life was a boy named Nam Gyunwoo, and the sadness of knowing they could never be together was immense. Not wanting to continue the conversation, she simply turned to leave. Nara still tried to stop her, saying she should at least stay to see her brother's graduation. But suddenly, a beast with a rat-like appearance emerged and pushed Nara down the stairs. In the fall, Mia's spirit, who was beside her, ended up falling as well and somehow entered the girl's body. At that exact moment, Nam Gyunwoo appeared and reached out his hand to help the girl on the floor. For Mia's spirit, seeing the man she loved offering help was a shock. For the first time, she could feel the touch of his skin, and her mind filled with romantic scenarios, leaving her completely overjoyed. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Mia, now in Nara's body, began to shamelessly flirt with Gyunwoo, to the surprise of all the other students. She noticed every detail of him, from his jawline to the veins in his arms, falling deeper and deeper in love. Gyunwoo, on the other hand, was very uncomfortable with the way she looked at him, saying her gaze was too seductive. Wasting no time, she invited him to the rooftop, a place she realized was a meeting spot for couples. The sudden invitation left Gyunwoo speechless. Mia interpreted his silence as shyness, since they weren't dating. Decided to be more aggressive, she asked if he didn't like dates and, in a bold move, hugged him from behind. The scene left all the students in shock. Gyunwoo, however, was furious and embarrassed. He pushed her away, not understanding what was happening, and hurried out of the room. Mia was confused. She thought he would like the initiative after all. In the romances she read, the protagonist always fell for that kind of move. Reality, however, was quite different. Nara's friends approached, worried, asking if she was okay because her behavior was so strange. Mia knew her time was short. As soon as the real Lee Nara woke up, it would all be over. She needed to win Gyunwoo over that very day. Meanwhile, on the roof, Gyunwoo tried to process what had happened. He was so embarrassed that his beast tail almost appeared. He reflected on why Nara was acting so intimately, and although he knew something was wrong, a part of him was enjoying the closeness, starting to think that maybe she really did like him. Far away, the 3 rat men who attacked Nara gathered. They complained that they couldn't even get a fingernail from the girl, as she had been stuck to Gyunwoo all day. Their boss had given a clear order, do not touch Nara, but he said nothing about the others. Therefore, they decided that to get close to her, they would have to devour Nam Gyunwoo first. Later at home, Mia, still in Nara's body, lay on the bed, exhausted. Although she hadn't achieved anything concrete with the boy, it had been a wonderful day for her. Still, she felt she had missed a golden opportunity. Before leaving Nara's body, she decided to change her clothes for her. Upon opening the closet, she found an amulet shaped like a rabbit hole, and to her surprise, discovered there was a secret room inside. Curious, she stepped through and came out out on the other side, finding Nam Gyunwoo asleep in his own bed. She couldn't understand how their rooms were connected and wondered about his relationship with Nara. Realizing they lived together, Mia understood that this was the true chance the heavens had given her. Without a second thought, she entered the boy's room and climbed onto his bed. Seeing him sleep so up close, she was at a loss for what to do, but emotion took over. Determined, she climbed on top of him, planning to steal a kiss and leave. However, Gyunwoo wasn't really asleep. He had sensed her presence and was only pretending to be asleep to see what she would do. The moment her face drew near, he woke up, blocking the kiss with the palm of his hand. His eyes glowed an intense shade of red. Grabbing Nara's face, he asked in a menacing voice, "Who are you?" He knew this wasn't the real Nara. Angered that someone was impersonating her, he intimidated the spirit into revealing its identity, threatening to destroy it if it didn't leave her body. Mia, in a panic, argued that if he attacked her, he would hurt Nara's body as well. But he didn't care, and with a blast of energy, expelled her spirit. Mia's ghost, ashamed, apologized and tried to flee. Gyunwoo yelled for her to stop, but her fear was greater, and she disappeared as she ran. His anger was clear, but perhaps it was only because it wasn't the real Nara, suggesting that if it had been her, his reaction might have been very different. At that moment, Gyunwoo tries to wake Lee Nara, but she doesn't respond. He realizes the expression on her face is her true one, not that of the ghost who had possessed her. Meanwhile, in some kind of astral plane, Nara feels comfortable, as if she were touching soft, warm fur. It's in this place that she hears someone calling the name Munchi. Suddenly, she returns to her body and wakes up at home, remembering almost nothing from the previous day. Soon after, she discovers that the ghost, named Mia, used her body to try and seduce Gyunwoo, and she is completely shocked. Mia apologizes and promises never to do it again. Embarrassed, Nara asks if anything happened between her and Gyunwoo, and the boy confirms that nothing did. Even so, Nara says she can't just forgive the ghost. Gyunwoo then interferes, saying he can't let a ghost that possesses people roam free, and states that he will help her pass on to the other side. Mia refuses, explaining that she needs to stay to watch her younger brother grow up. Lee Nara tries to defend the ghost, saying she stayed at the school worried about her brother, and that she had a difficult life, having to take care of her siblings alone. However, Nam Gyunwoo is not moved by the story. To him, what the ghost did was wrong, regardless of her intentions. He makes it clear that the problem wasn't a simple kiss, but the fact that it was done against his will. Suddenly, their attention is drawn to an old man arguing with a student outside the school. The old man, who is the principal, is scolding the student, Kim Seok-woo, for smoking. At that moment, Mia recognizes the boy as her younger brother. Outraged by the boy's attitude, and not understanding the sacrifice his sister made for him, Nara marches over and slaps the cigarette out of Kim Seok-woo's hand, shocking everyone. She calls him an idiot and says that his sister worries a lot about him. Upon hearing about his deceased sister, the boy seems to get emotional. However, the ghost points to the principal and corrects the situation, explaining that he is her real younger brother. Nara is completely mortified for having gotten it all wrong. Mia's concern was for the principal, who, according to her, doesn't dress properly and has lost his hair. The principal, in turn, says he still feels his sister's presence, and that her voice gave him the strength to raise their other siblings and build a family. With that, everyone feels a sense of relief seeing that her brother grew up to be a good person, and the matter is dropped. Sometime later, Gyunwoo finds Nara asleep and wonders if he should carry her to bed. Instead, he ends up lying down beside her. He hesitates for a moment, almost placing his hand on hers, but pulls back. As she sleeps, our heroine keeps repeating the name Munchi, and it's in this state of sleep that a strange story begins to unfold, that of the rat utopia experiment. The idea was to create a paradise for them, but as the population grew, the animals' behavior changed. The strongest monopolized everything, while the weakest were isolated. Tired of the competition, many became violent, and the society collapsed. Even when the population decreased and the environment became pleasant again, the surviving rats only cared about themselves and had no interest in others. The experiment was stopped before a total collapse, but the lesson was clear. This idea of competition connects directly to what happens next in Nara's classroom. She gets a test back and is shocked to see she only scored 40 points, while her friends got very high scores. Nara becomes disheartened, feeling like she's the only one being left behind and questioning if she'll be able to get into college like this. Suddenly, she hears her friends criticizing her, calling her lazy. When Nara confronts them, they deny it, but then they turn around with red eyes and start cruelly insulting her, saying she'll never be on their level. That's when a rat-like man appears and announces the start of a new experiment. The school goes dark, and the number 1 appears on Nara's back. A notice on the blackboard announces a game of hide-and-seek with a serial killer. Nam Gyunwoo appears with the number 2 on his back, confused by the darkness. Nara's 2 friends, with numbers 3 and 4, think they're in some kind of theme park. They look outside and realize they're in a giant place filled with buildings. Soon the girls find someone and decide to ask for information. To their horror, the man is a monster with an axe, bulging eyes and crooked teeth. The killer tells them to hide well and lunges at them, while the two run in panic. Meanwhile, Gyunwoo is surrounded by 3 rat-like monsters who want to devour him. Without hesitation, he launches a counterattack. With a powerful punch, he knocks down the first one. He dodges the second and hits it with a blow that sends it flying, hitting the third one in the process. In a matter of seconds, all 3 monsters are on the ground. Gyunwoo glares at them menacingly, but just then, the monsters call out for someone known as the Tattered One. Seeing Nam Gyunwoo's strength, the remaining ratmen shout that he must be devoured because he's too strong. At that moment, a gigantic, stitched-together monster appears. The creature, which looks like it's made of cloth, thanks them for the meal, and, to Gyunwoo's shock, devours one of the ratmen standing beside it. Without a second thought, Gyunwoo attacks with a spectral punch to the monster's belly. However, its belly transforms into a spiral that swallows his fist. Immediately after, he's hit with a powerful counterattack to the stomach that sends him flying into a wall. Seizing the opportunity, the monster grabs him by the hand, lifts him into the air, and slams him onto the ground, asking if he's ever died before as it brings its mouth closer to devour him. But Gyunwoo asks if it really wants to eat him that badly, and when the creature opens its mouth, he delivers an electric punch straight down its throat. The blow destroys the monster's body, which begins to fall apart, and from within it, thousands of rats start pouring out. Only then does Gyunwoo understand that he's in a rat's nest. Meanwhile, in another part of the location, the protagonist Lee Nara is hiding in a classroom. About 4 armed ratmen are searching for her, and Nara wonders what kind of terrifying beings they are. While hiding, she finds another girl who tells her to be quiet, but it's no use. One of the monsters climbs onto a desk, asks if she's there, and finds her, leaving the girl terrified. The monster tries to attack her, but Nara manages to dodge. Soon, the other armed ratmen advance, and that's when the other girl helps her run. As they flee, Lee Nara asks who those people are, and her new companion explains that they are rat monsters who are after her, specifically the rats that ate fingernails. They run up the stairs but realize the exit is blocked by a locker. To make matters worse, dozens of other armed ratmen appear, surrounding the two of them. Terrified, they wonder what to do. Nara's companion, holding a small axe, tells her to stay near the railing. Then, she uses the axe to cut the rope holding the lockers at the top of the stairs. With that, the furniture begins to fall, burying the ratmen and making them drop their weapons. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl uses a key with a rabbit charm to open a locker and tells Nara to follow her, saying she'll tell her more about this place. Nara enters the narrow locker and begins to crawl through a passage that leads to a hideout. The girl explains that the rats don't know about this space, so they are safe there. She introduces herself as Kim Hyuna and says she was dragged to this place a month ago. When she woke up, she was already here, in what she calls a rat hole, because everyone seems to be a lab rat. Hyuna reveals that about 30 people were brought here, but almost all of them have been eliminated and eaten by the rats. She explains that new people, like Nara, are continually being captured for this hell created by a being named Gaiam, the Rat King. Returning to Nam Gyunwoo, he is now interrogating one of the surviving ratmen. The monster explains that a competition is taking place here, and only those who survive can reach the throne. Gyunwoo asks what's on the throne, and the ratman replies that it's absolute power, and that only number 1 can sit there. He also reveals that the only escape route from the rat hole is located above the throne. Gyunwoo understands that to get out of there, he needs to defeat the Rat King Gaiam. So Nam Gyunwoo orders the ratmen to take him to their king. They escort him through a dark place, and Gyunwoo realizes there is a clear hierarchy under Gaiam's command. Suddenly, the villain himself appears from the darkness, saying that rats cannot be trusted, as they'll betray you at the first opportunity. Gyunwoo instantly realizes he's facing the Rat King. Gaiam introduces himself as the master of this place, but the student cuts him off with a punch. However, from the king's cheek, several rats emerge, crawling up Gyunwoo's hand and beginning to cover his body, leaving him terrified. The king says that Gyunwoo isn't strong enough, as he is just a lab rat like the others. When the boy asks why he does this, Gaiam reveals that he desires things that belong to other people, and that's why he became curious about what makes Lee Nara so special. Upon hearing her name, Gyunwoo, being overwhelmed by the rats, asks if Lee is there. The king confirms that the experiment with the girl has also begun. Gaiam then wonders what fate would suit the boy, saying he wants to see his darkness. The rats begin to completely consume him, but angered, Gyunwoo screams for them to get off him. In that instant, his aura becomes dark and powerful, forcing the rats to recoil. Suddenly, Gyunwoo's mind is transported to the house where he lived when he was younger. He comes face to face with his father, who seems happy to see him back. Gyunwoo says he missed him very much, but his father's expression changes. He says that, both in the past and now, the boy will always be alone. The false father reminds reminds him of the reason they lived hidden in the mountains, stating that Gyunwoo always caused those close to him to end up miserable, just like the old lady who was killed in front of him while he could do nothing. While Gyunwoo is trapped in this illusion, Lee Nara and Kim Hyuna are hiding in a bathroom. They notice that everything is very quiet and wonder if they can leave yet. However, they know the monsters are killers and are afraid. Suddenly, the door to a stall opens and they panic, holding their breath. Someone enters the stall next to them. They see several feet and think about asking for help, believing it's a person. Through the crack in the door, a rat man appears and asks if anyone is hiding there. The two girls' scream echoes through the bathroom the moment they are discovered. Immediately after, a rat-like woman also notices their presence, grabbing a box cutter. In seconds, about 6 armed rat women surround the stall, asking who is hiding inside. Meanwhile, in another room, Nara is watching everything through a camera and sees that her friends, Sujin and Aomsi, are in mortal danger. Next to her, Hyuna takes the opportunity to make a cynical comment. She questions if Nara truly considers them friends, reminding her that at the end of this competition, only one person can sit on the throne and escape. She explains that in this game, people cooperate at the beginning only to save themselves in the end, and that friendships mean nothing. But Nara knows her friends aren't like that. She understands that the rat men are just testing their loyalty. Hyuna insists it's safer to stay in the bunker to avoid being betrayed, but Nara ignores her. She grabs a ruler and a pencil, declaring that if she is no longer human but a monster, then she can fight. Hyuna calls her a fool, saying only one person will get out alive, but Nara firmly replies that she will save everyone and go back home. Elsewhere, Nam Gyunwoo is trapped in psychological torture. The Rat King, Gam, toys with his mind, bringing up the memory of his grandmother. Gaem knows that Gyunwoo's weak point is his fear of abandonment and being alone, the same pain he felt when his father and grandmother were gone. The king accuses him of being a selfish coward who only takes care of others out of fear of being alone. Gyunwoo screams in denial, trying to resist these words. As he screams, a dark shadow and thorns begin to emerge around him. Gaem takes advantage of this negative energy to look inside Gyunwoo's soul, wanting to expose the weak nature he believes all humans hide. Inside, the Rat King finds a giant, imprisoned black wolf. This was Gyunwoo's great secret. Suddenly, the spirit of Gyunwoo's father appears and tells the king to stop. He explains that the thorns are, in fact, his son's effort to control himself and act like a human, but the Rat King doesn't care and shatters the thorns, freeing the beast. With the seal broken, the giant, ferocious wolf is unleashed and attacks brutally, tearing off half of the king's spiritual body. The king realizes his mistake. Gyunwoo wasn't hiding his nature. He had sealed it away completely, and now the monster was free. Gyunwoo's vision shatters and he is thrown to the ground. He is now transformed, a mixture of man and wolf. In this bestial form, he attacks the king without mercy, unleashing punches that destroy his body. Just before being defeated, the Rat King begins to laugh, saying that Gyunwoo now looks more like the beast he truly is. Gyunwoo strikes once more, causing the enemy's body to explode. From within the destroyed body, thousands of rats pour out, and the voice of the true king echoes. He says that he has awakened a terrible monster, one that now moves purely on instinct. The king then invites him to a special event, and at that moment, several stitched rag dolls appear to attack. The Rat King encourages him to go wild and embrace his nature, where the strong devour the weak. Gyunwoo accepts the invitation with a smile and begins to fiercely destroy the dolls, hunting them down one by one to avenge his grandmother. Back in the bathroom, the situation was desperate. The rat women were holding Sujin and Aomsi by the hair, ready to devour them. But at the last second, an arrow made from a pencil strikes one of the rat women, who falls to the ground. Annoyed, Nara appears and challenges the others to come at her. She runs to lure the remaining 3, leading them into a trap. The rat women follow her without thinking and end up falling from the building. Sujin and Aomsi are impressed by the plan, and Nara hugs her friends, relieved to have saved them. One of the rescued friends thinks about how Nara risked everything for them. This reminds her of a dark moment from the past. She recalls a time when they saw Hyuna, the girl who was with Nara, about to jump from the school roof. Back then, instead of helping, they just took pictures, showing that their friendship wasn't always genuine. Back in the present, Nara explains to Hyuna that the only way out is on the top floor. However, Hyuna is suspicious, believing that in the end, they will all betray each other in the fight for the throne. Because of this, she considers returning to her safe hiding spot to avoid getting hurt anymore. Even so, Nara extends her hand to her, offering a chance for them to escape together. At that moment, Hyuna notices a tattered monster approaching from behind Nara and shouts to warn her. Suddenly, several of them appear and charge forward to devour the girls. But in the blink of an eye, a shadow slices the first monster in half. It was the Wolf Man. With impressive speed, he eliminates all the creatures using his claws and electric attacks. axe. The girls are paralyzed, shocked to see the monsters defeated in a matter of seconds. Nara, in particular, is stunned, not recognizing the creature. Their fear grows as the wolfman begins to walk toward them. He prepares a powerful attack, ready to use his claws against Nara, whom he seems to see as a being of light. In desperation, she screams the name Gyunwoo without even understanding why she did it. Upon hearing the name again, the creature suddenly stops its attack and embraces her, as if a memory has been awakened. Meanwhile, the Rat King watches from a distance, frustrated. He had expected the beast to follow its instincts and eliminate the girl. And for a moment, it seems that's exactly what will happen. During the embrace, Gyunwoo's body begins to tremble. His eyes fill with rage, and his claws pierce Nara's back, making her scream in pain. Seeing this, Hyuna regrets following the girl, realizing that this thing was truly a monster. Nara screams for Nam Gyunwoo to get a hold of himself. In the midst of his fury, he seems to finally recognize her. The beast then releases the girl, handing her back to her friends. Upon seeing Nara's blood on his hands, Gyunwoo is overcome with regret. In his vision, everything turns dark, except for her body, which glows blue. He doesn't want her to leave him alone. As the girls start to flee up the stairs, he follows them. Hyuna yells for the monster to stay away, but her friends notice that he no longer seems aggressive, just sad. The girls continue climbing, but they soon encounter several rat men blocking the stairway. They prepare to fight, but before Nara can shoot her arrows, Nam Gyunwoo rushes past them. Filled with rage, he attacks the monsters and brutally eliminates them. Confused by the unexpected help, Hyuna decides not to question it and leads the group to take the chance to go up. The Rat King finds the wolf's unpredictability amusing, like a new toy, but vows to destroy him in the end. Finally, they reach the rooftop, where they find the only escape route: a climb to the throne of absolute power. There, a classmate recognizes Hyuna. He introduces himself as number 18 and tells Nara that this is his third attempt to reach the top, offering to help. However, their conversation is cut short when Gyunwoo appears, glaring hatefully at the boy, who flees in terror. It's at this moment that the Rat King appears before everyone, announcing the start of the final test. The game is simple. The first one to sit on the throne wins. He declares that effort never betrays anyone and that the winner takes all. With the starting signal, Nam Gyunwoo, in his wolf form, begins to climb determinedly toward the throne. The other competitors, seeing that he's drawing the attention of hundreds of rat men, decide to use the distraction to their advantage and start climbing as well. The rat men's feast begins, and they advance on all the competitors. Alone, Gyunwoo faces the horde. With electric attacks and absurd speed, he defeats dozens of monsters at once, clearing a path. The other competitors, impressed by his power, seize the chance to advance. Hyuna and the other three girls also use the opportunity to climb. Everyone gives their all to survive and return home, but the danger is real. Amid the chaos, one of the competitors is caught by two rat men and brutally eliminated. The competitor's life comes to an end, and he is completely finished off by the rat men. At the same time, two other creatures advance toward a group of survivors. Two friends prepare to fight. One says he'll take the monster on the right, and the other the one on the left. However, in an act of desperation, one of them shoves his own friend toward the beast to save his own skin. The betrayed boy becomes furious and screams that the traitor in the cap won't survive this. The boy in the red cap, now alone, wonders why he did that, having acted without thinking. He remembers a moment before all this, when he should have just walked past a motorcycle that was parked with the key in the ignition. The last thing that comes to his mind is the thrill of secretly riding that motorcycle, and then nothing. He probably got into an accident and ended up in this bizarre place. While his former friend is torn apart by the rat men, the boy keeps climbing, crying because he misses his parents and wants to go home. However, an axe flies toward him, and his life also comes to an end. The students, including Kim Hyuna and Lee Nara, are terrified as they watch the scene. At the top, a bald man holding the axe warns that from that point on, anyone who tries to pass will be eliminated. He says that if they don't want a tragic end, they should stay below and not climb up to him. Two competitors threaten him, but the bald man just challenges them to come up. One of them, blinded by hatred, climbs up, screaming that he'll get out of there alive. Lee Nara realizes that everyone has gone mad. She had hoped that if everyone worked together, they could escape and even become friends. But that idea shatters when the bald man eliminates the competitor with a single blow. Cooperation no longer seems like an option. Kim Hyuna recognizes the pattern, saying this is why she didn't want to climb to the throne. People always change in extreme situations, and a psycho like that bald man always shows up. According to her, even the most level-headed people quickly lose control when they're desperate because this place is a true hell. The bald man then asks if anyone else wants to face him. The other competitors back away in fear. He scoffs. saying that if they're scared, they should just stand still while he becomes the winner. He promises that as soon as he gets out of here, he'll eliminate everyone who ratted him out to the police. It's at that exact moment that the Wolfman, Nam Gyunwoo, appears silently behind him. With a single punch, he sends the bald man flying. The blow was so powerful that everyone is shocked. Gyunwoo considered the punch weak, but to the others, he is a terrifying monster. Everyone feels fear upon seeing his true nature. He remembers the fox's words about how humans always react with aversion and fear when they see who he really is. But Lee Nara's reaction is different. To him, her true nature is beautiful and luminous. The girl recognizes him and no matter what form he takes, continues to call him by his human name. The wolf inside Gyunwoo wants to continue hunting the rat men, but Nam asks to take control for a while. He wants to use his strength to love and help others as his father taught him. Even though he looks like a wolf, inside he is still Nam Gyunwoo. This is his true nature. When he returns to his human form and looks back, everyone recognizes him. He asks them to hold on for just a little longer. While Lee Nara positions herself to protect her friends, Nam Gyunwoo advances to destroy the Rat King, the Game Master. The Game Master Gaem congratulates Gyunwoo for being number 1, but reminds him that a game is just a game, and that he should just take the throne and escape. Gyunwoo doesn't care about the rules. He states that the real target is the king for imprisoning and eliminating innocent people, forcing them to fight each other. He declares that Gaem's sick pastime will end today. Gaem replies that this place is just a reflection of the human world, a world of hatred where one must eliminate or be eliminated. He explains that he was born during the Korean War, growing by feeding on the hatred of the dying, and that he now devours the souls of the challenge's losers, claiming there is nothing sweeter than a soul drenched in malice. Enraged, Gyunwoo calls him a demon and demands he come down to fight. The Rat King laughs, saying the true demons are the humans, who never stop fighting and hating. Then he unleashes a massive wave of rats upon Gyunwoo. However, the student says he won't fall for the same trick twice and unleashes an electric punch that blasts all the creatures away. Immediately after, he lands a solid kick to Gaem's face, followed by a powerful thunder strike to his chest. Gyunwoo doesn't stop, delivering a flurry of hateful punches until Gaem's body begins to bubble like sludge. The Rat King flies into a rage, asking if playtime is over as he reveals his true form. He transforms into a gigantic creature made of black sludge with a deformed face. Gaem screams that humans turned him into this with their hypocrisy, pretending to be good while hiding their inner ugliness. As he says this, he attacks with his tentacles, and the first blow lands a direct hit on Gyunwoo. Meanwhile, Lee Nara watches the fight, worried that he's all alone and has taken such a heavy blow. Her attention is diverted when she sees a rat man about to finish off another competitor. Without hesitation, she saves the young man's life by shooting one of her pencil-shaped spectral arrows. The boy thanks her, but Kim Hyuna scolds her, saying this is no time to worry about others, especially competitors who were ahead of them. Nara replies that she just can't stand by and watch someone get eliminated. At that moment, another student saves Kim Hyuna herself from a surprise attack from behind. Nara then tells Hyuna not to get distracted. Honestly, Hyuna never wanted to climb this high. She was terrified, knowing this place was a deeper hell than the rest of the game. Despite her fear, Kim Hyuna's words give Lee Nara the courage to keep fighting by her side. Suddenly, however, a boy appears at the top of the structure, declares himself the first to reach the throne, and proclaims himself the victor. Nara recognizes him instantly. It's the same man she had just saved from the beasts. For a moment, she regrets helping him, thinking she should have pretended not to see him. This feeling of frustration seems to permeate the air, filling the place with dark emotions. The other competitors feel a surge of jealousy and rage at seeing the man win, and some even consider pushing him off the top. And that's exactly what happens when a hooded figure appears and shoves the boy off the throne. Seeing her chance, Kim Hyuna shouts that it's not too late for them to make it to the top. Spurred on by the moment, Nara starts running too, but quickly stops. She wonders why she's running so desperately. Is that hole in the sky really the only way out? And what's on the other side? Who made all these rules? As she ponders this, she glances to the side and sees Nam Gyunwoo in trouble. He's taking a serious beating from the Rat King, a giant creature made of sludge named Gaem. The monster leaps onto him, claiming to be the king of this place, and its stomp deals massive damage to Gyunwoo. Inside him, his inner beast, a wolf, tells him he's going to need help. But Gyunwoo refuses, insisting he can win with his own strength. He focuses spiritual energy into his foot and manages to blast one of the monster's legs apart. However, the creature regenerates instantly and kicks him away again. Gaem explains that he is invincible here, as the place is overflowing with the dark emotions illusions of humans. The inner wolf reprimands him for denying its very existence. It explains that they both exist together, like waves in the same sea, and that within them lies a sacred relic, the Thunder Wolf. The beast says he must wield the power of malevolent spirits, just as an ancient hero named Pung Baek once did. Gyunwoo finally understands. He admits he was hiding his own darkness, afraid of being consumed by it. But now he accepts that it, too, is a part of him. Following the wolf's advice, he unleashes the relic's power with a brutal punch. The attack completely obliterates Gaiam's monstrous form. All the other competitors stop in their tracks to watch as the Rat King begins to disintegrate within his own domain. Nam Gyunwoo declares that the monster's game is over. Gaiam screams that he will regenerate, but as he tries to flee, a large fissure appears in the space around them. Nara realizes the darkness around the fissure is identical to what she saw when she was trapped inside the fox. In that moment, a suspicion dawns on her. They are trapped inside the Rat King's soul. Nara's theory is confirmed when they see the monster's real body on the floor, sick and spitting up fluids, lying within a ritual circle. She then grabs a pencil and a rubber band, using her thumb ring to create a makeshift bow, the same technique she used to escape the fox. If her guess is right, the hole in the sky isn't the only way out. They just need to find another one, just like Gyunwoo did when he defeated the monster. While he rummages through the fallen monster's slime, searching for something, Nara shoots the pencil directly at the crack. The pencil hits its target and begins to glow. In the real world, the Rat King's body also glows, and he screams in pain. The entire space begins to collapse. Furious that his realm is being destroyed, Gaiam charges at Nara, but Nam Gyunwoo seizes the chance and lands a powerful knee strike on the monster, who is now much weaker and falls to the ground, powerless. Gyunwoo says their game is about to begin, and the two head into the final confrontation. Meanwhile, the students try to survive amidst the chaos. The tower is collapsing, and all the survivors are struggling to stay on their feet. However, Nara notices something incredible. The structure isn't just collapsing, it's transforming into a path. She says that everyone can get out alive if they follow it. Kim Hyuna hesitates, wondering if it's safe, but Lee Nara takes her hand and says they'll escape together. Hearing those words sends Hyuna into shock, transporting her to a memory from her past. She remembers how lonely she was at school until a girl named A reached out to her. AA was everything Hyuna wasn't: beautiful, smart, and popular. They had similar tastes and soon became very close. Thanks to A's personality, they formed a group of friends, with A always at the center of attention. Hyuna felt a mix of admiration and envy. She wanted to be like A, to beat her at something, just once. That day came when the teacher handed out the results of a test. Kim Hyuna scored a 99, becoming first in the class. A's grade, on the other hand, had dropped. Apparently, A got angry, and from that moment on, the other girls in the group started to exclude Hyuna. Kim Hyuna's exclusion only worsened with each passing day. When she tried to bring up a boy in conversation, her friends would simply ignore her, making it clear she was no longer part of the group. The conversations she was left out of only increased, and Hyuna had no one to talk to about the bullying she was enduring. She started to overthink, wondering what she had done wrong for her friends to treat her that way, and her anxiety skyrocketed. The turning point happened in the school bathroom. Hiding, she overheard her former friends saying she copied everything girl A did, from her clothes to the way she acted. They even spread a rumor that Hyuna was only popular because A hung out with her. Hearing that was devastating, and Hyuna started scratching herself out of nervousness. The truth was, her mother had bought the outfit by coincidence. She never meant to copy anyone. When she got home, she tore up the jacket that looked like A's and asked her mother to throw it away. Her mother, worried, asked if someone was bullying her, but Hyuna lashed out in stress. Her mother found her attitude strange and asked if she was studying, which led Hyuna to explode, questioning if grades were more important than her feelings. It was then that she confessed she had no friends anymore, and, in the middle of a breakdown, slammed her head hard against the wall. Her mother hugged her, saying she would make good friends in college, but the damage was already done. The next day, A asked what had happened to her face. Desperate, Hyuna humbled herself, asking what she had done wrong and apologizing for hurting her former friend's pride. A then suggested they clear things up in a group chat, but it was a trap. As soon as she joined the group, the other classmates called her clueless and said it was annoying to hang out with her. Even a day at karaoke, which Hyuna thought had been fun, was described by them as a horrible time. Their harsh words felt like physical wounds to Hyuna. Because of this, even her grades, which had always been good, plummeted. Feeling it was all her fault and that her life was falling apart, she went up to the building's rooftop, thinking of ending it all. As she wondered why it was so hard for people to help her, someone pushed her from behind. In that instant, her back was marked with the number 0, and she began to fall. But as she fell, Hyuna was filled with regret. She didn't want it to end like this. And at that moment, the scene shifts back to the game's reality, with Hyuna desperately clinging to Lee Nara's hand as she was pulled to safety. Our protagonist screamed for her to hold on, telling her they were almost at the exit. The other students helped too, and their support gave Hyuna a new will to live. After everything she had been through, she had finally found a reason to fight. Meanwhile, the creature Gam, now in pieces, insisted that the game was over, but Nam Gyunwoo was not satisfied. He declared that he would destroy the entire place so the monster could never hurt anyone again. Concentrating lightning in his hand, he summoned the Thunderwolf, which completely disintegrated the creature and began to destroy the entire arena. With Gyunwoo's attack, the tower began to crumble. Amid the chaos, a survivor ran to the throne, declaring himself the winner as the chair floated in the air. But the victory was short-lived, as the entire space began to collapse, being sucked into a black hole. Everyone held on to keep from being pulled in. Kim Hyuna, filled with hope, thought she could finally escape that hell. She remembered her mother's words and decided she would hold on a little longer because she wanted to live to fix her mistakes. She wasn't going to give up, but at the last second, a rat-like man appeared and struck her in the back with an axe. Lee Nara tried to hold on to her, but Hyuna fell onto a table, saying she had no luck at all. Nara begged her to hold on, but it was too late. With her last bit of strength, Hyuna apologized to her mother for being so difficult. Feeling the warmth of Nara's hand, her spirit finally left her body. Lee Nara screamed, not believing what she was seeing. As the black hole sucked in everything around it, she tried to grab Hyuna's soul but only managed to get a small fragment before everything disappeared. Suddenly, all the students woke up in their bodies in the real world. However, Nara woke up with that piece of Hyuna's soul in her hands, proof that none of it had been a dream. Before her, she saw the spirit of her new friend. Hyuna's spirit said that in another life they could have met in an unknown place, become friends and shared secrets. Maybe they could have been very close if fate hadn't been so cruel. Hearing this, Nara began to cry and shouted that they were already friends. Before disappearing completely, Hyuna thanked her and faded into the air. Shortly after, Nam Gyunwoo appeared in the hospital room. Crying heavily, Nara told him that her friend hadn't made it out. She felt guilty for being the only one to survive, even though she had promised they would get out together. Gyunwoo comforted her, repeating over and over that it wasn't her fault. He knew the weight of that feeling, as those were the same words he had wanted to hear when his grandmother died. He never wanted to feel the loneliness of being left behind again, and so he tried to ease Nara's pain. As he consoled her, a distant memory came to his mind, that of a beast man. Curious to know why someone named Pung Baek was after Lee Nara, he reaffirms his promise to protect Nara no matter what happens. He won't let Pung Baek or anyone else hurt her. To fulfill this promise, he is willing to do anything, even transform into a beast again and sacrifice what's left of his humanity. Meanwhile, in a completely different place, the boy who sat on the throne believes he has finally won the challenge and escaped. Suddenly, he appears in an empty city and wonders where he is. Soon after, he finds a huge arsenal of weapons and a poster promising a job to the winner of a new competition. He is shocked to realize he will have to go through all of that again and, crying, he falls to the ground, because this wasn't the deal. At the same time, the chief of the Ratmen, Gaem, begins to feel very ill in his physical body. He is furious with the wolf that destroyed his hideout and nearly killed him. Gaem asks his subordinates who invited the wolf into the game, but they all deny it. However, one of them remains silent, and the chief immediately assumes it was him, beginning to eliminate the Ratmen one by one. It's at this moment that the traitor reveals himself. It was the evil fox, disguised the whole time. He admits that he was the one who put the child in the game. The fox explains that he can barely control his transformation and cannot risk it, so the wolf will serve as a temporary obstacle. He hopes the huntress's offspring survives until he regains his full strength. Far away, Pung Baek stands in a completely destroyed place, surrounded by bodies and darkness. A giant spirit, the god of calamity, demands that Pung Baek fulfill his promise and open the passage quickly. If he does so, the god promises to turn the land of Dangun into a true hell. Pung Baek agrees, saying that no matter how many times he saves humans, they never change. Because of their greed, they become mere insects not worth saving. He declares that he will cleanse the corrupted land and start everything anew, becoming the Dangun of a new world. To do this, he needs to gather more Eongwis, the evil spirits. But all of this was just a prophetic dream of the matriarch of the beast family. Looking out the window, she understands that a spirit showed her this vision. The crow spirit appears and urgently asks her to stop Pung Baek. He reveals that the villain is gathering the souls of living humans to summon the god of calamity. The woman is shocked and wonders how he is doing something so terrible. The scene then shifts to a bus, where we see Hando Sunbi, the middle son of the beast family. Some girls on the bus notice how handsome he is, and one of them stares at him intently. Sunbai notices and gets annoyed, but not with her. He is angry at an Eonkwi, a deformed slime creature, that is on the vehicle. Suddenly, other evil spirits begin to climb onto the surrounding cars. In an instant, another bus violently crashes into theirs, throwing people around and causing a chaotic accident. Hondo Sunbai is badly injured amidst the confusion. The Yonquis seize the chance to attack, devouring the souls of the accident victims. Hondo understands that someone caused all of this on purpose, just to harvest these souls. A mysterious woman observes the scene and encourages the spirits to devour as much as they want. After all, the souls of living humans are everywhere. Amidst the wreckage, Hondo has a quick flashback of his past in a cold pigsty, wishing it were all a dream. He wakes up as a young woman comes to his aid, relieved that he's alive. She tells him she called for emergency services, but no one is doing anything. Hondo gets up and realizes he can move. He sees an Aonqui devouring several souls and warns the girl that the place is dangerous and they need to get out of there. He helps the girl, who has an injured leg, to her feet. At that exact moment, one of the evil spirits rips her soul from her body. The girl's soul is terrified, about to be devoured by the monster, but before the creature can attack, Hondo Sunbae creates an energy barrier from his aura of beauty, saving her life. Then, he creates 2 new barriers that crush and explode the monster. Now, on the spiritual plane, the girl realizes there are many other monsters around. A huge slime creature charges at them, but Hondo slices it in half with another barrier. He saves the girl once more from another attack, annoyed that such ugly beings dare to cause trouble in his presence. In a panic, the girl asks if she's dead, or if this is all a dream. Hondo places a hand on her head and calms her, saying it's just a dream, and then pushes her soul back into her body. He tells her to think of it all as a nightmare that will soon pass. This phrase awakens a memory in the girl. Her brother had said the same thing to her in the past, about a nightmare that would pass, but it was something she could never forget. Hondo then gets off the bus, telling her to wait inside, as the streets are full of monsters. Outside, he encounters something even more terrifying, the woman who summoned the Yonquis. She notices he is special for having survived the accident. She taunts him, saying he'll find out her motives before he dies, as she takes great pleasure in devouring her prey. Hondo feels the woman's immense power and realizes he has no chance of defeating her, starting to think of a way to escape. The woman, however, says she hates losing her prey and tells Hondo not to run. She warns him that if she gets angry, all the humans around will be killed. At that moment, several black claws emerge from her back, revealing her true nature. Hondo is surprised by her audacity to show herself in broad daylight and threatens her, saying that the hunters will come after her. But the woman just smiles, saying she would be happy if they came, as it would save her the trouble of hunting them down. It is then that she reveals the trap. They are all already caught in her giant spider web. Immediately after, a large hole appears in the ground, and an earthquake begins to shake everything. The cars are swallowed by the rapidly opening crater. Inside a bus, the girl and other people are also sucked into the abyss. Hondo tries to hold on, but the force is too great, and he is also pulled in. The few people who manage to stay on the surface look down into the hole, which seems bottomless. In an instant, all the humans who were in the web's area had vanished. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kim Hyuna's situation was desperate. The fragments of her soul that Lee Nara had managed to bring back were slipping away, and her condition in the hospital was only getting worse. The doctors had already warned her mother to prepare for the worst. However, the truth was that Hyuna was still alive, trapped inside Gaem's mind and tormented by terrible nightmares. Aware of this, Lee Nara was filled with determination, promising herself that she would rescue her friend, no matter the cost. News of the disaster spread quickly. Newspapers reported that a giant crater had appeared at an intersection at 9 in the morning, swallowing 92 citizens. Chaos had broken out at the scene. Desperate families searched for relatives while firefighters began a rescue operation. They descended with ropes and flashlights, but the depth of the hole already suggested the worst. Upon reaching the bottom, 102 meters deep, the rescue team found something even stranger. The place was completely empty. There were no bodies, no cars, nothing. The only things they found were spiderwebs and a structure that looked like an ancient temple. Far away, the protagonist's family of hunters was discussing the situation. The matriarch, the group's leader, believed that the great chaos was finally beginning. When Nam Gyunwoo appeared, she suggested he rest, but he expressed concern about leaving the family alone. The matriarch, with her usual arrogance, assured him that she was the strongest of them all. The protagonist, however, stepped forward and declared that she wanted to go too. Her motivation was clear. She needed to help Kim Hyuna and didn't want to regret not trying. Seeing her determination, her mother allowed her to go, and Nam Gyunwoo decided to join as well. The matriarch then promised to pay the 2 students well for their work. Back at the crater, the fire department team, still confused about what was happening, was taken by surprise. People began descending, bringing portable toilets with them. From inside one of them, a man in a suit emerged, introducing himself as a member of the National Intelligence Service, Division 4. He ordered the immediate evacuation of the firefighters, claiming a risk of a gas explosion. In reality, they were a special phenomena response team, a secret department that investigates the supernatural. The leader, Gong Chai, gave the order, and soon the hunter teams began to emerge from the portable toilets. First, the O Dangun team, with our heroes. Then the Jangsan Ghost team and the Exorcism team. The tension between the groups was immediate, especially between the family's matriarch and the leader of the Jangsan, who traded insults as soon as they saw each other. Gong Chai ignored the provocations and got straight to the point. The mission was to capture the spider responsible for the disaster. He revealed that it was also the culprit behind the derailment at Nokwang Station, which had caused 70 casualties. The bounty on the creature's head was 1.2 billion won, and the hunter or team that defeated it would keep all the money. The leader of the Odangan team quickly showed her interest in the reward, much to the disapproval of the exorcists, who found her attitude vulgar with so many lives at stake. Without wasting any time, the teams began to enter the portal that led to the spider's lair. The protagonist found it strange how everyone entered without hesitation or any sign of fear. Nam Gyunwoo asked if she was ready, and after she confirmed, the two of them entered last. On the other side, the scene changed drastically. They were in a dark cave of sorts, filled with webs and bodies hanging from the ceiling. One of the corpses was so old it appeared to be from the Joseon dynasty, showing that the spider had been active for centuries. One of the exorcists taunted the students, saying they could still go back if they wanted to live. Lee Nara in turn responded with a dark joke, saying she saw the shadow of death on his face, which startled him. They realized the creature had been clever, disguising its hunts as accidents to avoid being discovered. While a Buddhist member began to pray for the dead, a priest noticed that the corpses still had gold pieces on them, a wealth they couldn't take to the afterlife. Despite the solemn moment, the priest couldn't resist the temptation and took a gold chain from one of the bodies. He tried to justify the theft, saying he would use the money for a good cause, and even quoted a line from Jesus to ease his own conscience. But in that same instant, a giant creature appeared out of nowhere, startling everyone. The monster grabbed Father Choi by the neck and without hesitation devoured him in front of the group. Just when everyone thought it was the end for him, something incredible happened. The priest said a prayer from inside the monster and simply exploded the creature from the inside out, emerging completely unharmed. Lee Nara realized he had used a divine power to save himself, and the matriarch was impressed by his faith. The priest revealed that he had been expecting a trap like this. With the threat revealed, the three groups prepared for battle. The leader of the Jangsan, however, saw this as an opportunity to move ahead while the others dealt with the horde of monsters that began to appear. The masked man, meanwhile, warned the students to stay out of the way and pulled out some talismans, which irritated Nam Gyunwoo. The fight truly began as the creatures charged forward. The Buddhist monk acted first, creating a mandala on the ground that generated a magical sphere of protection around them. Meanwhile, Father Choi activated his own power, making 2 red crosses glow on his hands and using his holy fists to punch the monsters. Soon after, an older archer asked the priest to step aside and fired a flaming arrow of annihilation, eliminating several creatures at once. To top it off, the masked man threw his talismans, which acted like bombs and exploded in sequence, causing massive destruction. Despite their combined efforts, Father Choi admitted he could no longer keep up the pace. The situation worsened when the monsters began breaching the monk's protective circle. The shield was breaking, and the students started to panic. The master warned that her guardian deity was taking too long to appear, and in desperation, she screamed that she needed more time. At that exact moment, just when all seemed lost, Nam Gyunwoo stepped in front of her, his body covered in lightning. He decided it was time to show his true power. It was time for the wolf to emerge. With a fist glowing in the darkness, he fearlessly charges forward and uses his Thunderwolf technique. A massive wolf made of lightning forms and attacks the monsters, electrocuting all of them. In a matter of seconds, a blast of destructive energy annihilates all the remaining creatures, leaving all the other hunters completely shocked by the young student's power. Amidst the general surprise, Lee Nara tries to help but ends up making a mistake. She fires a spectral arrow that, instead of hitting a monster, goes straight for Nam Gyunwoo. He calls her inexperienced, which upsets her. Our hero realizes he stood out too much, exactly what his mother had warned him not to do. She had told him that if the other hunters discovered his true nature, they would be hunted. The saying goes that a hunter's arrow pursues evil energy, and that's why it hit him. Looking at his hand, which was beginning to take on a wolf-like form, he understands what happened. He was already prepared for this possibility, so he endures the pain, hides his hand, and tells everyone he's fine. With the area cleared, the master suggests that the spider hunt become a game to see who can defeat it first. The matriarch worries, saying her son is the weakest one there, but Kim Oram boasts about being much stronger and more famous. The master then declares that they should act separately from that point on. That's when they realize that the Jangsan Ghost team has already gone ahead on their own, probably to take all the treasure for themselves, which infuriates Oram. Meanwhile, the Jangsan Ghost team is already further ahead. Using binoculars, they find what appears to be the spider creature's warehouse. Inside, several people are trapped in cocoons, intoxicated by a venom that keeps them alive in happy dreams. Their target, however, is not the spider, but a specific girl worth 6 billion won, 5 times more than the reward for the creature itself. The leader, Jang Sung-bai, wants to rescue her to deliver her to a mysterious client. As they wonder who would pay so much for a child, the spider creature silently emerges behind them. The spider attacks with ferocity, using its fangs to destroy the train car they are in. The two hunters run and fire their heavy weapons, loaded with talisman bullets. Even so, the shots don't have much effect. The creature manages to catch up and annihilate the first team member, the hunter Kim. Before dying, however, Kim manages to throw a spectral energy grenade. The explosion injures the spider and throws his partner, Jang Sung-bai, to safety. Furious over the loss, Jang sees the creature's true form, a woman emerging from inside a giant skull. She mocks him, saying his partner was weak and that the warriors of old who fought only with swords tasted much better. Jang Sung-bai pulls out a knife, pretending he's going to face her hand to hand, which seems to please the Spider-Woman, but it was all just a trick. He presses a button on his radio, activating a trap. 2 panels emit energy and form a massive explosive talisman on the ground, right beneath her. As the trap explodes, he keeps firing without stopping. However, the creature survives the attack and quickly counterattacks, piercing Jang with the skull's fangs. Disappointed, she says he only knows how to use tricks. Jang, defeated, warns her that his companions will come after her. The Spider-Woman replies that she knows and left the door open, as she finds hunters amusing and tasty. Finally, she drips a liquid onto him, telling him to sleep and dream of her. As soon as the liquid touches Jang Sung's forehead, he begins to laugh strangely before falling into a deep sleep. Shortly after, his body is enveloped and stored inside a spider cocoon. However, inside another cocoon nearby, Hando Sunbae manages to use his magic to break free. He wakes up confused in a filthy place and quickly defeats one of the small spiders that was watching him. That environment reminded him of his terrible past. Since childhood, Hando had been called a monster, a creature sent by demons to destroy families. To escape this abuse, he ended up running away to a place that was a different kind of hell, a pig slaughterhouse. There, he would watch the animals screaming as they waited for their turn to die. Hearing those screams, he felt so lost that he no longer knew if he was a human or a pig. On the day he gave up on everything, a miracle happened. The matriarch Kim found him and asked why he was hiding behind a fence, as if it were a limit he had created for his own life. She made him choose to live as a pig among pigs or as a human among humans, and he chose to be human. Back in the present, Hando fully awakens and realizes he was dragged into the spider's lair after being bitten on the neck. Despite the deep sleep, his mind is now much clearer. He decides he needs to get out of there as quickly as possible, but the place is dark and full of creatures. As he looks for an exit, he sees that monsters are everywhere, so escaping silently won't be an option. He will probably have to fight. Meanwhile, the rest of the Odangun team is completely lost, realizing the entire place is a large pit. They begin to regret not going with the exorcists, thinking they will now lose the 1.2 billion won reward. Suddenly, one of the members finds Hando Sunbae's bag on the ground. The matriarch Kim is shocked to realize he is there, and the entire team decides to hurry to find him. Far away, Hando finally finds a large hole in the wall, thinking it could be an exit, but upon passing through, he's confronted with a horrific scene. Dozens of bodies wrapped in cocoons, all in a deep sleep. He quickly realizes this isn't an exit. In fact, it's some kind of food larder. Seeing all those people trapped like that reminds him of pigs in a slaughterhouse. Fear grips him, and he begins to tell himself over and over that he has to get out of there now. Just then, he finds the girl he saved on the bus, who quietly asks for help. Hando quickly covers her mouth so the spider won't hear them. But it's too late. The Spider Queen enters the larder, saying she heard a noise and that her venom must not have been strong enough. She drops Jang Sung's body on the floor and asks who is there. Hando recognizes her and hides, noticing how gigantic she is up close. The Spider-Woman complains that the person she just ate had no spiritual power, making the taste bland. Still hungry, she decides to feed on another victim's soul, ripping out the skeleton and devouring only the flesh. Hondo is terrified, knowing that if he gets caught, he'll be killed instantly. He's certain he can't face such an enemy and must escape. Suddenly, several skeletons fall behind him, reminding him once again of his escape from the slaughterhouse and the fence he had set as his own limit. Just then, the Spider-Woman grabs the girl worth 6 billion. Seeing this, Hondo can't take it anymore. Filled with rage, he leaps forward and lands a powerful punch on the creature, yelling at her to stop feeding on humans. His attacks are powerful and filled with hatred, and for a moment, he thinks the fight is over. However, the monster's husk begins to regenerate, and he realizes she's still alive. The irritated Spider-Woman recognizes him as the man who survived the bus crash. She asks how he could possibly be alive, even after being struck by her venomous fang. Hondo replies that he didn't feel any venom at all and calls her disgusting, enraging her. He then challenges her, saying she has 5 seconds to try to defeat him. Thinking he is bluffing, she attacks with one of her fangs. The blow is so powerful it shatters Hondo's magic barrier instantly, sending him flying. He realizes that if he keeps taking hits like that, his body will be torn in two. His only chance is to reduce the size of the barrier by half to double its thickness. The Spider-Woman scoffs, saying his barrier is as fragile as glass, but Hondo is confident. He declares that he will end the fight in the 5 seconds he promised. Annoyed by the delay, the Spider-Woman demands he show her something real. The test of strength is over. Hondo then creates 2 smaller barriers, one on each arm, and begins to parry all of her strikes. The barriers shatter with each impact, but that's exactly what he wants. At the perfect moment, he dodges, leaps high into the air, and positions himself level with her face. He distracts her with his aura and manages to trap her head inside a magic barrier, landing a powerful kick to her belly. The Spider-Woman uses her fangs to destroy the barrier, but as soon as it breaks, another barrier appears underneath. It was a trap from the beginning. Hondo reveals that his real plan is to compress the barrier to its limit and turn it into a blade. As soon as the second barrier is broken, he uses his technique, the Soul Guillotine. The barrier transforms into a sharp blade that strikes the Spider-Woman squarely, slamming her to the ground. The blow seems to have been effective, but to Hondo's astonishment, she is still alive. With a smile, she asks if his 5-second hope is already over, revealing that his special attack wasn't enough to cut her. The Spider-Woman continues to mock him, saying that all the hunters who thought themselves special ended up the same way, dead in her graveyard. She promises to hang Hondo's head on her door, but he remains unfazed and calls her an old hag, enraging her further. She goes on the attack with her fangs, and Hondo manages to dodge using his barriers at high speed. However, he can't escape everything. One of the fangs hits his ankle, and soon after, 2 other claws pierce his arm, leaving him trapped. Even cornered, Hondo-senpai doesn't give up. He has one last ace up his sleeve, and summons another soul guillotine, but this time in a brilliant move. He creates the sharp barrier right under a 1-ton truck that was nearby. Using the vehicle's weight, the blade descends with full force and severs the Spider-Woman's neck. The impact throws Hondo backward, but his strategy works. The creature is finally defeated. Relieved to have survived, he goes to the woman he had saved on the bus to wake her up. The young woman wakes up confused and even compliments his appearance, but the peace doesn't last long. Suddenly, the Spider-Woman's decapitated head sprouts small claws and starts moving on its own across the floor. The head returns to its original body and reattaches itself as the monster asks if the girl is his girlfriend. She says she doesn't like handsome men, and Hondo replies that he doesn't like girls who use their own heads as accessories either. At that moment, a black sludge of evil spirits envelops her body, sticking the head back in place. The Spider-Woman transforms, becoming even larger and more menacing. She attacks with her new claws, and Hondo creates a barrier to protect himself and the girl. The monster's strength is immense, and its poisoned claws break through the protection and pierce his shoulder. But instead of screaming in pain, Hondo starts to smile. He realizes the poison is throwing him into a dream, a memory from his past. The vision takes him to the house where he was adopted by a wealthy couple after leaving the orphanage. For a while, everything seemed perfect, and he finally had a family that loved him. The situation changed completely when the couple managed to have their own biological daughter. From that moment on, Hondo was completely neglected. He realized he was no longer needed by them. Everything worsened when, one day, his true identity was revealed, frightening his adoptive family. For 4 long and terrible years, the couple treated him inhumanely, imprisoning him in a basement with a chain around his neck. The days were painful. He suffered from hunger and thirst, and to endure the loneliness, he would count the specks of dust in the air. The only person who showed him any kindness was his little sister Somi, who would sometimes bring him food in secret, even if it meant getting scolded by their parents, until one day, along with the food, Somi left a key. The boy managed to free himself and fled into the rain, not knowing where to go. He saw a truck full of pigs and thought it would be the perfect hiding place, a place where he could camouflage himself and hide his true nature. Tired of everything, he climbed in among the animals, thinking it might be better to just become a pig. Back in the present, the memory of this trauma fills Hando with fury. The Spider-Woman realizes her poison isn't working as it should, as he doesn't seem to have any happy memories to corrupt. Annoyed, she flings him away with her claws. Hando feels immense pain, but manages to create a barrier to protect himself. The monster strikes with a heavy blow that shatters the barrier and drives him into the ground. He takes a series of blows from the creature's 8 legs, but refuses to pass out. The Spider-Woman asks if he has finally understood his place, but Hando knew from the start that she was a monster far too powerful for him. Even so, he keeps getting back up. He remembers the words of someone who encouraged him to stop hiding. He had chosen to live among pigs, but he could live as a human if he wanted to. That's why he decided to fight to the end, even if it cost him his life. The Spider-Woman laughs at his determination and strikes with a fang right in the middle of his chest. The blow begins to tear the soul from his body, and Hando goes into shock. But at the last second, Kim, the leader of the Odangun team, appears and lands a powerful punch on the monster, saving him. Furious, she yells at the creature not to touch the boy, whom she considers a son. The punch is so strong that the Spider-Woman is thrown to the ground, seemingly defeated. Shortly after, the rest of the Odangun team arrives to help. The matriarch complains that the monster messed up her son's handsome face, and Hando starts to cry with emotion upon seeing that everyone came for him. Lee Nara jokes that it was for the money, but the feeling of family is real. Gihan, his older brother, holds him, and even Nam Gyunwoo, the youngest, is there. Even though Nam says he never considered him a brother, Hando thanks him and shakes his hand. He realizes that, finally, he has a place to belong. The Spider-Woman gets up, impressed. She says she has never seen a hunter with such strong spiritual power. The matriarch Kim thinks the compliment is for her, but the monster points to the girl behind her, Lee Nara. The creature claims that in 800 years, it has never seen such great energy, and that she must taste delicious, revealing its intention to devour her whole. Faced with the Spider-Woman's threat, Nam Gyunwoo steps forward and declares that won't happen, promising to crush her with his own hands. The Spider Queen then summons one of her servants, a skeleton knight mounted on another spider. She explains that this is her 9th husband, who betrayed her in the past. With a gesture, she envelops him in dark energy, turning him into a loyal servant and ordering him and the other skeletons to capture Lee Nara. The skeleton knight charges forward, and Nam Gyunwoo attacks it with an electric punch. However, the blow isn't strong enough, and the skeleton counters with a powerful sword strike. Matriarch Kim defends against the attack and shouts for Nam to go straight for the Spider Queen. Meanwhile, Lee Nara is being protected by Hando Sunbai inside a shield. She starts using her pencils to attack the monsters outside, and Sunbai encourages her, assuring her the shield won't break and asking her to trust him. Seeing this scene from a distance, Nam Gyunwoo completely misinterprets it and becomes filled with jealousy. Angrily, he starts punching the spider's minions, yelling at Hando Sunbai not to take advantage of the situation. Unleashing his fury, he eliminates dozens of creatures with his electric fists and shouts for Lee Nara not to trust Sunbai, but to trust him instead. Enraged, Nam Gyunwoo challenges the Spider Queen to face him directly. She attacks with her enormous claw, but he counters with an electric punch so powerful that her hand goes limp, and he slams it into the ground. The Queen, however, warns him not to think he's won just by breaking one of her arms. Suddenly, her other arms pierce through Gyunwoo's body, catching him by surprise and wounding him gravely. Seeing this, his family is horrified, but instead of screaming in pain, he begins to smile, and a dark voice echoes, saying that one day he would need the wolf's presence, for the two are one and the same. Before everyone's eyes, Nam Gyunwoo completely transforms into the Black Wolf. The Spider Queen mocks him, but the wolf simply smashes her face into the ground with a single arm. The impact is so absurd that Hando Sunbai warns Lee Nara not to get any closer, as he is far too dangerous. His family tries to shout for him to return to his human form, but he doesn't listen. The Queen, irritated, snaps her fingers and traps him in a web cocoon, then throws a bus on top of him. However, the werewolf dodges with incredible speed. As he charges again, a train appears out of nowhere and hits him in midair, but even that isn't enough. Nam, in his monstrous form, shatters the vehicle's walls and continues his pursuit, landing a massive kick to the creature's head. Slammed into the ground, the Spider Queen screams in pain and finally understands that Gyunwoo is a beast, just like her. She claims he shares the same darkness, but he cuts her off, piercing her abdomen with a single blow. The wolf then tells her she is mistaken. She is the prey and he is the predator. Terrified, as she has never been in this position before, she tries to reason with him, but he simply rips off her claws as if they were paper and continues to destroy her. In a last-ditch effort, the Spider Queen begs him to spare her life, speaking of a new world where darkness justice will reign and he will no longer have to hide. She begins to mention the name Pung Bak, but the wolf doesn't let her finish and delivers a final punch to her face, tearing out her essence and beginning to feed on it. At that moment, Matriarch Kim rushes in and shoves him, preventing him from absorbing that power. The wolf turns on his own mother, who realizes she is losing her strength as she holds him back. As he threatens to attack her, Gihan, his older brother, uses a red shackle spell to bind him. The matriarch prepares to knock him out, but a bright light flashes as Lee Nara approaches and hugs him from behind. She tells him the spider has already been defeated and asks him to stop, saying she knows he did it all to protect them and that she trusts him. For a moment, the hug seems to work. He falls to his knees and his consciousness appears to return, but it's only temporary. An instant later, he places his hand on Lee Nara's neck, claiming that she belongs to him. The wolf says she is just another shiny piece of prey, and that no one, not the Rat King, not Pung Baek, can take her away. As the wolf opens his mouth to devour Lee's soul, a countdown ends, and an arrow with a talisman strikes his back, causing an explosion. A team of exorcists appears, surprised to find an evil wolf there. They finally understand that Gyunwoo was a monster all along. The group's master summons her guardian deity, a general spirit, and orders the creature's elimination. But as they all prepare to attack, Lee Nara steps in front of him and stops them, claiming he is not a monster, but her friend. The priest in the group retorts that he was about to devour her, but the girl replies that he's just going through puberty, leaving everyone confused. Ignoring the argument, one of the exorcists fires an annihilation arrow. Hando Sunbae creates a barrier to protect his brother, questioning what they are doing. The wolf, however, shatters the barrier, grabs Lee Nara, and as the guardian deity attacks him, he begins to flee. Holding the girl in his arms, he scales the walls and disappears at high speed. His family tries to follow, but his agility is superhuman. Gihan is left behind, wondering if he could even calm his brother down if he managed to catch up. As Gihan runs to catch up with his transformed brother, he holds on to a small hope that Lee Nara, the girl the wolf is carrying, can calm him down. In the midst of the confusion, the master of the exorcist team doesn't understand why everyone is trying to protect a creature that seems so evil. Matriarch Kim Oren, however, cuts the conversation short and tells them to mind their own business, stating that her family will deal with the wolf. She even issues a threat, saying she will wipe out anyone who ever touches her children again. At that moment, everyone notices that the Odangun team has also managed to capture the giant spider, confirming the rumors that Kim Oran is truly one of the best. Hando Sunbae, focused on the reward, starts searching for the spider's head, which is worth the prize money. Kim Oren also grows desperate, thinking about the 1.2 billion she could lose. To everyone's surprise, the spider's severed head sprouts small legs and tries to escape, proving to be much more resilient than they had imagined. When someone calls it a cockroach, the head charges forward furiously, but it's finished off for good by Jang-sun, who uses a knife. The matriarch becomes furious, accusing the ghost Jang-sun of trying to steal her prize. However, he explains that he only wanted to avenge his partner and had no intention of being unethical. To prove it, he gives up the reward and hands the head over to Kim Oran. The truth is, Jang-sun has a much bigger target in mind, the 6 billion for capturing Lee Sumi, the daughter of the QJ conglomerate. He wouldn't risk that fortune for a mere 1.2 billion. With the spider mission over, Jang-sun begins to rescue the injured. Hando Sunbae sees him carrying Lee Sumi, the girl worth a fortune. The exorcist master and Kim Oran are surprised, thinking he has become a good person, helping others without expecting anything in return. Inspired, the leader of the Dangun family decides to help rescue the survivors as well, and the exorcist master realizes she isn't just motivated by money. Together, the teams start freeing all the people trapped in web cocoons, and the leader of the special division is shocked to see a crowd emerging from the portable toilets, confirming that he had gathered the strongest teams in the country. Meanwhile, far from all the commotion, the wolf finally gets to be alone with Lee Nara inside a subway car. She, showing no fear, asks if he is going to devour her. The wolf replies that he can't let anyone else do that to her, but if it comes to that, he will do it himself. Unexpectedly, Lee Nara hugs him and says his fur is fluffy. Surprised, he asks if she isn't afraid, but the girl states that she trusts Nam Gyunwoo, his human form. Trying to scare her, the wolf grabs her by the shoulders and says that he is different from the boy she knows. Lee Nara jokes, asking if this isn't the part where he's supposed to turn back into a human, like in fairy tales. The wolf replies that in fairy tales, this is the moment the girl gets devoured. Unfazed, she pulls out a ruler imbued with spiritual energy and shoves it into his chest, telling the wolf to disappear and for her friend Nam Gyunwoo to come back. The energy transfer is so immense that a bright light explodes from inside the subway, forcing a reverse transformation. Gihan sees the light from a distance and thinks he's too late. He bursts into the car expecting the worst, only to find his brother, already in his human form, resting peacefully in Lee Nara's lap. Back on the surface, the situation is already under control. Thanks to the Spider-Woman's venom, most of the witnesses have lost their memories of the incident, which made containment efforts easier. Kim Oren is congratulated for her efficiency. The experts explain that the creature was an exotic species from Mongolia, likely brought over during an ancient invasion to weaken the local gods and the spirit of the people. Finally, the Odangun team receives their 1.2 billion reward. Kim Oran immediately starts dreaming of buying luxury clothes, paying the rent, and maybe even an apartment, saying goodbye to poverty. However, Gong Che shows up with bad news. It's time to settle the damages. He deducts 300 million for the destruction of a factory, another 400 million for the damage to the subway, and 200 million more for the usage fee of special items. In the end, out of the 1.2 billion, only 300 million remains. Outraged, she accuses him of being a thief. Far from the financial chaos, Lee Sumi is informed that her father, the chairman, is waiting for her. The girl is surprised, as she thought he didn't even know she had run away from home. Hondo Sunbi approaches and asks why she ran away, and why he tried so hard to protect her. He says it's not the first time they've met and asks her to go home soon, as her family is worried. As he says goodbye, Lee Sumi finally recognizes him. He was the brother she lived with, trapped with the pigs. She feels sad about the wounds his adoptive parents caused him, but happy to see him well. Now that they are no longer family, she thinks that maybe she can love him in a different way. Lee Sumi's words send Hondo Sunbei plunging into his own painful memories of that time, a deep pit from which he feels he cannot escape. However, he remembers the day he met Kim Oren. She found him right after he escaped and asked if he had anywhere to go. With no family or destination, he didn't know how to answer. It was then that the matriarch asked if he would like her to become his mother. This is the bright memory that gives him the strength to climb out of the darkness, for he chooses the memories he will carry with him. As he reflects on this, Kim Oren herself appears, excited, saying that it's all over, and they can finally go home. Hearing that he has a place to return to, Hando feels good. The matriarch hugs him and promises they'll have dinner as soon as they get there. For the first time, he feels immensely happy to have a real family. The final scene takes us back to the chairman, who is notified of his daughter's arrival. Looking terrible, Lee Sumi finally enters the room to meet her father. Lee Sumi finally arrives home, but the atmosphere is extremely tense. Despite surviving a car accident and falling into a sinkhole without a single scratch, she tells her father that he shouldn't care about any of it. In response, the chairman delivers a hard slap to his own daughter's face, furious that she ran away and dishonored the family name. Sumi confronts him, saying he has changed and is acting very strangely, especially with her mother having been hospitalized for 3 years for no apparent reason. She accuses him of not visiting his wife and not even caring about his own daughter, asking if he even knows her birthday was the day before. His reaction is even more violent. He slaps Sumi again, and just as he is about to strike her with a club, a man in a suit stops him. This man is Pung Baek, who intervenes by saying that Miss Sumi has already gotten the message. He advises the girl to behave, as her father is destined to do great things for the country, and she must not embarrass him. The chairman then reveals it was thanks to a certain Mr. Kim that they found her, and orders her to thank him. However, Sumi knows in her heart that it was because of Pung Baek that her life fell apart. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Nam Gyun-woo is taking care of Lee Nara. He applies medicine to the claw marks he left on her neck, feeling terrible about what he did. He explains that his inner wolf was out of control, but his human side offers a sincere apology. Nara forgives him, saying the wolf was to blame, not him. But Gyun-woo insists the wolf is also part of who he is, and promises he won't transform like that again. Suddenly, the bandage on her neck falls off, and as he puts it back on more firmly, the mood between them shifts completely. Nara notices how handsome he is and her heart races. He also notices her beauty, and the two slowly lean in closer. Just as a kiss is about to happen, the doorknob turns. It is Lee Nara's mother, asking why the lights are off in the room. Panicked, Gyun-woo hides under the covers. Nara lies to her mother, saying she was already going to sleep and that the male voice she heard was from a YouTube video. The mother, however, remains suspicious. She comments that her daughter has been acting strangely and that the room, which used to be a mess, is now always clean. With a knowing look, she suggests that Nara has found a boyfriend. While her daughter denies it, Gyun-woo, still hiding, begins to breathe near her navel, tickling her. Nara writhes to keep from laughing, but ends up accidentally kneeling him in the chin, making a loud thud. The mother asks what that sound was, and Nara, with no other choice, whips the covers off. To everyone's surprise, instead of the boy, there is a massive black wolf on the bed. Gyunwoo is relieved to have transformed just in time to avoid being discovered. Nara quickly makes up an excuse, saying the dog belongs to a classmate. When the mother tries to pet him, the wolf growls at her, and Nara gives him a little tap on the head to scold him. In a slip-up, she mentions his name is Nam Gyunwoo, but quickly corrects herself, claiming the dog's name is Munchi.